Okay, folks, here we go.
Guys, here we go. Let's have a good show.
One B, stand by. Okay,
Yeah.
Yacht,
Yeah,
take it.
take it at midfield.
Take
Just go
it.
right now. Go to camera 3.
Can
3.
you
Go to the get perfect, just like that.
I'll just go ahead.
Yeah, graphics 2 is going to be up for the first. Okay.
Take it.
Go right now. Go to camera 3. Go. Yep. Go to the get perfect, just like that. No music.
I'm going to hand to Q, Sophie.
Wait for it.
On radio in the Canal Zone.
All right, guys, mic check.
Go ready.
Okay, Ricky, mic.
Yep, I am ready.
Wait for it. 2.5.
Willie, mic check.
Yep, let's go.
One B, stand by.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6,
5,
4, 3, 2, 1, and
Okay, and go for it.
Lo va a pitar aquí. ¡Que lo pite el árbitro! ¡Ricardo ¡Pita el árbitro! ¡Se acabó el partido, Ricardo! ¡Se acabó el partido, Ricardo! ¡Se acabó el partido! ¡Vamos al mundial directo! ¡Vamos al mundial directo! ¡Vamos al mundial directo! ¡El sueño se cumplió! Guys, that is a great scene from Tuesday night, but it is Friday night. It is 8 p.m. Eastern time. It is 5 p.m. Pacific time. It's 8 p.m. Canal Zone time. It's Happy at the Balboa Yacht Club. Ricky, happy Friday, man.
Hello, everybody. Like always. Hey, Willie, that was a great intro, man. Just started on the right tone. Listen, guys,
Excitement,
welcome, everybody, to our SCN Canal Zone happy hour at the Balboa Yacht Club. As you guys know, it's a weekly podcast hosted by Willie and I, both Canal Zone, will we be citizens, that are bringing you this podcast live every Friday, a very interactive podcast. That's all about the Panama Canal, its history, which tonight we're going to be doing a lot of that, its founders, and most important, its people, aka known as Zonians. Guys, so let's just get this show started with a nice toast like we always do. Tonight I got some Irish coffee to toast with you guys. And let's get this show started, Willie.
Yeah, indeed. We definitely want to toast all Zonians because that's what we do here. We're here for you guys. But this week we also toast the Panama soccer team, the La Marea Roja, the Red Wave. These guys on Tuesday night qualified for the World Cup coming up here in June and July of 2026, which happens to be hosted here in the U.S. Actually, it's in 3 countries. It's hosted in the U.S., in Canada, and in Mexico. Mexico has actually the opening game, which is kind of cool at the big Azteca
Miss
Stadium.
Universe. And they got
Yes.
the new Miss Universe.
They did. That's right. But this is not a show about Mexico. This is all about Panama and the
That's
Canal Zone,
correct.
and of course, again, this great story of soccer with what happened on Tuesday night. So if you didn't see it, United States, Panama beat El Salvador 3-0. They went into the match having to win and having to outscore Suriname, who was playing Guatemala at the same time.
And had a 3+ score advantage over us.
Correct. Suriname had gone on a rampage. They had scored I think they beat El Salvador 5-0, 6-0 or something. So they had a huge goal difference lead over Panama, which is the first tiebreaker. So, Panama had to first of all win the game, but then they had to score a lot of goals. And that they did. I mean, they scored 3 goals. They kept a clean sheet. And they also got some help from Guatemala, who ended up beating Suriname 3-1. And so
what a
it was
brotherly thing, man.
It was great. It was, the weekend prior was the first of this final round. It was first series of games, and Panama was actually in Guatemala, and that was kind of an ugly game. There was a lot of ugly situations there with the fans and stuff. In fact, there was a lot of rumors that Guatemala, just out of spite, was going to throw the game against Suriname to make sure that they won. And so forth. But as it turns out, Panama ended up going through. So really,
and
really
whooped them on Suriname as well. They outscored
exactly.
them.
They
What was that,
absolutely
4-1?
did. Yes, absolutely. So that absolutely was a big deal for these guys as well. And then one of the things that we did, of course, because of the fact that the World Cup will be held here in North America. we'd like to get a big group of Zonians to go. So we've thrown together a Facebook page, Zonians Going to the World Cup. If you haven't received an invite to this, I try to send one out to everybody that I know. But make sure that you go. It's facebook.com/CZ World Cup. Hoping that it's in the United States, which would be a little bit more easier travel-wise and to get around and so forth. But, Mexico's not that difficult. Canada's certainly not that difficult either. But, man, if we can get a good group of Zonians all together to watch this, it'd be a really, really good time. I know we had a little bit of a fun time a couple years ago at the reunion in Orlando watching it was a Gold Cup. It wasn't obviously a World Cup, but it was. I remember, I was there. Yeah. Exactly. It was. I mean, it was fun. It was a lot of excitement there. It was really cool to have so many Zonians with their Panama shirts on and whatnot. But nothing compares to the World Cup. I mean, that's that's the big one. And
yeah, and we're expected to at least win one game, right?
Well, that's the thing. It's interesting that you mentioned that because the latest FIFA rankings just came out. And wouldn't you know it, Panama is ranked number 30, okay? And not 30 in the World Cup teams, okay? They're ranked 30th in the world, period, okay? So, again, there's 48 teams in the World Cup. This year's the first time they've expanded it to 48 teams. They usually have 36 teams. What that does, a lot of people are saying that dilutes the talent, right? Because obviously the more teams you have teams that are less qualified going in. And actually the yesterday or the day before in the UK, one of the newspapers there, The Sun, which is one of their big papers, they ran through their computers and whatever their soccer supercomputer does. They ran a simulation of the teams that were expected to qualify because there's still some opening slots in there, and they actually had Panama going into the knockout stage. In other words, they were going to get out of the group stage. They weren't going to win the group, and more than likely they won't. But, if they can at least win one game and maybe get a draw on another game, that's like hockey, soccer. It's in the group stages. You get 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, and, of course, 0 points for a loss. But they take the group winners, and I believe it's the second-place teams. And then they have a couple of other teams that end up going in as well. But again, because of the amount of teams that are there now and the fact that, again, Panama's 30th in the world, mind you, I like their chances. I think, making it out of that group stage might be something to strive for Panama, something realistic.
And Willie, this is the World Cup where they increased the number of teams to, was it 48?
To 48, correct. 48. So that's what I mean. It's when you open it up to more teams, you're obviously letting in other teams that are less qualified, right? And so another interesting fact, for what it's worth, Panama was the only Central American team to qualify. Okay, because had they not won the game on Tuesday night, they were high enough in the standings that they would have gone into a playoff, which obviously they don't have to now. Suriname ended up going into that playoff along with Jamaica. So those teams are going into a big round-robin tournament with teams from Europe and from Asia and Oceania, Africa, etc., to try and get one of those extra spots.
Like 6 more spots left?
There's 6 more spots, correct. Spots. But again, Panama doesn't have to do that now, and it's well deserved. They've had a good time. What's interesting, when you bring this up, somebody the other day started, you see a lot of things posted out there, and talking about Panama and say, well, they're not going to make it out of the group stage. They're going to choke and whatever, and choke, strong word. I get it. People throw comments around here and there, but first and foremost, in order to choke, you actually have to be assumed that you're going to win the game, be a favored, right? And if you're not as a favored, you don't win. That's considered a choke. If you're the team that goes in there as the newcomer, one of the minnows, as they say, and you don't win, well, you're that team. But if you do, it's a step up, And the thing about Panama that you have to understand, they were a latecomer into the whole World Cup scene, the whole international soccer scene. In fact, I've got an interesting thing I printed out with some numbers and some facts to look at here to kind of understand where this is coming from. The team that you're seeing like on the screen there, the team that won this week, they're they've got some players that are playing overseas, playing in the U.S. They've got a guy playing in Brazil right now, and Ricky's really, really in love with this guy. And I mean, it's got the numbers that they're talking about for him as far as money for him to go to Europe, because his next destination is obviously Europe. This guy's that talented, but
Yeah,
he's
he
setting
plays
the
in
world
the
on fire in
Brazilian-
Brazil. What's his name, Ricky?
Kadir. So it's I mean, in his name is Kadir, but in Brazil they're comparing him to Pelé and Ronaldo and all these guys. They're even talking about naturalizing him because he's that good and he's Panamanian.
Yeah,
A young 18-year-old Kadir. What's his last name?
it starts with a B.
Barria.
Baria, that's right. And the thing
Kadir
about it, where it's caught
Barria.
people's eyes, is the fact that the team, I believe it's Botafogo, if I'm not mistaken, is
Yes.
the Brazilian team that he's
Yeah,
playing
Brazil
for.
team.
You know, you're getting ready to go into December and January. In soccer, in international soccer, there's two primary transfer windows, and this is when players can move around typically, unless you're a free agent. If you're not on anybody's team, you can be signed at any time. But if you're playing on a team and you're under contract, there's what's called a transfer window where you buy and sell players. It's very rare that players get traded in international soccer. It's usually you buy and sell a contract, even if they switch teams. I'll buy your player for X amount of money, and you'll buy my player for X amount of money. And what's happened where this guy suddenly has come into prominence is that as you near the January transfer window, which is a time that teams have gone through about halfway through their seasons in Europe and in Asia and in North America, et cetera, and they start looking at saying, hey, you know what, this is what our season's looking like. We might have an injury here. We need a replacement player. So they have a small window in January for 1 month that you can buy and sell players. And this Brazilian team has said, hey, if you come knocking on the door for this guy, our price tag is $57 million.
57 plus.
Right. And you know, in the World Cup game, or in the international soccer or club soccer, really, which is what they're talking about here, you know, the Manchester Uniteds, the Real Madrids, Barcelonas, etc. $57 million for a striker is on par with some of your better players out there. Now, I wouldn't say your best players. Your best strikers are commanding 70, 80 million, but 57 million for a player is really,
18
really
years
good
old.
money. Exactly. He's a kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you guys have an idea of this kid. Everybody's been seeing him come through the ranks, 15, 16, 17-year-olds. So he finally hit 18 recently, so it means he can play in the Premier League. And they've been expecting him. So in the first game he plays, he scores 2 goals right off the bat.
Yeah.
I mean, like right off the bat. 2
Very
goals.
talented.
Yes.
Very, very talented. You know, and so it's interesting to hear that. And then he's from Panama, you know.
Okay. So he'll be on our team in the World Cup.
Which would be fantastic to see him. And you know, that's the place where these guys will go to showcase themselves, right? This is where these guys are going to go there and hopefully have a fantastic World Cup, and then all of a sudden players line up. There was several World Cups ago that a Colombian player named James Rodriguez, this is where he suddenly came on the world stage. He made some spectacular goals, one against Mexico. It was just a beautiful, beautiful goal. He hit it off his chest. He volleyed it in the air from way outside of the box, and just a fantastic goal. And next thing you know, this guy was in demand by everybody in Europe. And you know, this guy went from somebody that you barely had heard of, and you might be lucky to get $3 or $4 million for him. Suddenly they were lining up and competing for big bucks for him. So this is what this guy, you know, stands to look at and whatnot. But he is when we go back to that whole discussion about, you know, is Panama going to succeed, and oh no, Panama's going to choke and whatnot. Understand Panama's pedigree. And the team that you see again on the field here, this is a team of a bunch of really good athletes. Okay? And there was a journalist from Costa Rica the other day was talking about, you know, what's gone on in Central America right now and how no other team in Central America even made it to that last qualifying round that's coming up in a couple of months here. They just all got eliminated, and Panama went all the way through and went through to the automatic qualification. They've done so well. And part of that is that, like he said, he goes, in today's high-level, you know, world-class soccer game, these guys are training similar to what you see the big college athletes here in football and the NFL, you know, where they have the strength and conditioning and all those kind of things, that you now have to have tip-top athleticism on top of having, you know, that soccer pedigree. Now, does that soccer pedigree exist in Panama? Not yet. Okay, it's developing. Soccer in Panama is in its infancy. I mean, that's what I was trying to explain to somebody when we were chatting on Facebook earlier, was that, you know, a lot of your other world-class teams out there, when you see those guys out there playing soccer and you start following and watching them, you realize that their dad played prior to them, right? They played in leagues and they've been around for a long time, and they understand the game from like 3 and 4 years old. They're already kicking a soccer ball. They're already understanding even some techniques and things that you and I don't necessarily understand. And this team here, these guys, they didn't grow up that way, right? These guys probably got into soccer in their early to late teens, right? And yet they're still doing a great job in reaching this point of qualifying for the World Cup. But the next generation, 10 years from now, the teams that are coming out of Panama, those guys now have had 20, 25 years of success in the country, of a big following, of world-class facilities. I mean, so to kind of put things in context, okay, here's the history of Panama's, you know, international soccer, you know, competition and stuff. 1988 was when they started their first professional league, and it was very, very small. I don't think they were even making money or even getting paid. You certainly weren't doing it full time, okay? That was a league called ANAPROF. I'm not even sure what that stood for, but now it's the LPF, La Liga Profesional de Fútbol, which is the first division of Panama as far as professional soccer goes. In fact, one of our Zonian friends here, class of 87, Michael Stump, had a lot of success coaching some of those teams in Panama, and then he's now coaching, I think it was the women's national team, took them to a World Cup, if I'm not mistaken. But anyhow, that was in 1988, and then nothing really happened until 2000. In early 2000, soccer starts to get more popular because of social media. This is the era when Ronaldo first started coming into prominence, Messi started coming into prominence, and so it started to get a following outside of just your diehard soccer fans, right? Other people started now following soccer, and it started to get some popularity. Panama's a very athletic country. There's no ands, if, or buts about that, right? But Panama has always been a baseball and a boxing country.
That's correct.
Football obviously came in through the influence of us Zonians, and it's obviously has grown into a big sport there. You know, Ricky talked last week about the success of the women's flag football team, how they're just absolutely trouncing teams in their regions. They're just levels ahead. But that's still just recent history, and that had a big influence from the United States. And again, you know, the United States has had a big influence in Panama for 100 years, and so. But the real soccer didn't start coming in until, again, the early 2000s. In 2003, Panama qualified for the FIFA U20 World Cup. U20 means the under 20-year-olds. Okay, anybody that's under 20 years old is allowed to play in these. This is where you start seeing some guys that have some pedigree, and you could say, hey, this person might go pro. This person might go overseas to play. And now you
AAA in baseball.
Yes, exactly. And in the early 2000s, you started seeing some Panamanian players now were starting to go play in South America and starting to go play in Mexico, which is that first step up, you know, where you're considered more elite leagues. And so now you're seeing people that are coming out with a higher skill level. And it's now starting to get traction. They had the Gold Cup in 2005. They reached the Gold Cup final. They lost it, but they had, you know, again, a big, you know, movement in a region that traditionally had, of course, United States, Mexico, Canada to a certain extent. Honduras has always been a good team. Jamaica, people underestimate Jamaica, but a lot of British players, a lot of Premier League players are from Jamaica. You know, they have a soccer pedigree there as well. And yet Panama has started to make inroads here. And it wasn't until about 2010, 2011 when things really started to take hold. Now they're starting to get more popular. There's more money in Panama now, and you know, for different reasons why. But the point is that now you're starting to get in some more of that infrastructure. Okay, gotcha. You're starting to get, including FIFA money. Interesting complaint that somebody said about Costa Rica, that in the last 5 or 6 years, they've received about $35 million from FIFA, and they've done nothing to upgrade their infrastructure, their training, you know, programs and complexes and stuff. And Panama did that. Panama started getting money in there in 2018. You know, fast forward now, 2018, they finally qualified for their first World Cup. You know, I was telling you guys last week about that whole fiasco on Carnival Cruise Lines, but you know, when they walked out on that field and lined up, and they started singing the national anthem. I remember shedding a tear because it was, for a soccer fan, that's a beautiful moment that your country for the first time ever is doing that. They're on that world stage. They've been recognized as one of, the World Cup. The real technical name, it's called the World Cup Finals. Why? Because this is a 2-year tournament. Okay, you're playing games and qualifying, and you get to the finals now, and this is where you really stand out. So, regardless of where they're coming from and what rankings they have, the fact that you're in the World Cup means that you have been through a lot. You have had to achieve a lot of qualifications, unless you're the host team, of course. But Panama finally qualified for that World Cup. Didn't do so well. In fact, I remember, and Ricky, you were talking about it the other day, that they got trounced 6-1, but they scored that first World Cup goal, and they celebrated as if they had won the final, right? But that's the emotion that you have. That's the journey that you've gone to, and here's another phase in your journey. You've scored a World Cup goal. You've now faced a team that's one of the best in the world on the world stage there, and you've scored a goal. So the result of that was some money. They got some good money in from FIFA, and they really started upgrading their facilities. They built new stadiums. The national leagues have become prominent. They started actually bringing in some players from some other countries in Central America and even in South America to play there, which again, they're starting to take hold and be recognized even in the club tournaments. So the last probably 7 or 8 years, Panama has now been recognized as a legitimate soccer country. Right. Their manager, he's Danish, has done an absolute fantastic job. And the guy's great at speaking Spanish and whatnot. But he's stuck with the system. A lot of people criticize him, in not making the last World Cup, but he's stuck by that system. And now they're the best team in Central America. They're the top 30 in the world, and they're facing a World Cup here, man. So really, really exciting times. I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen there. We're going to stay on this, guys, for the next, 5 or 6 months, and until we get closer to that World Cup. Again, December 5th, in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from tonight, is the World Cup draw. It'll be done during the day, of course, so by the time the show comes on, we'll already know, but we'll have something to discuss here. We will know then who Panama is going to face, and more importantly, we will know where they're going to be playing, because, again, one of the things that we want to do, guys, is have a big group of Zonians get out to that World Cup and to support the team, right? Mm-hmm. I looked at tickets. I signed up for tickets to get on there, but tickets are brutally expensive, okay? That being said, just being at that city where the team's going to play, they have huge fan zones. Think of it like a Super Bowl, right? Where you had a bunch of fans travel to that city to go watch their team, even if they don't have Super Bowl tickets. But they still go and hang out with like-minded fans, and so ideally if we could get a bunch of Zonians to go to one of these cities and hang out for 3 or 4 days and party. And who knows, if we happen to be near the Panama hotel, we maybe, get to see these guys and everything. But I think it would be an awesome time. I think it'd be a lot of fun. And again, it's exciting times for us. Panama's in the World Cup, man. It's I'm geeked, as you can tell, man. I love soccer. I'm happy. Speaking
of happy, let's say hi to some of our
viewers. Yeah. That's a bit long-winded on that one, but yeah, let's start from the top here. Leaf Wapenamon from Panama, who has now qualified. Yes, indeed, we have. Absolutely. Hey, Mark, good to see you. Welcome to the weekend. Yes, welcome to the weekends with our bar show here. By the way, guys, next week, Mark Cicero, we're going to debut the Christmas song. He's got some Christmas songs that he created here that we've had a lot of great photos sent in from Zonians on your Zonian Christmas. So looking forward to premiering that video here. That's going to be a lot of fun. Vern, good to see you. Vern was helping us out as giving us our Atlantic side coverage last week. So good to see you back here again.
Thank you very much for that, Vern.
Ricky, close your windows.
It's good
yes.
to learn about the other side.
It is. It's a big part of the zone, And even if we
Jeffries
beat them up here from LAX, okay, right on the other side of the country. Go Knowles. There you go. Hey, Juan Thompson. Hey, listen, guys. Juan Thompson. For what it's worth, Juan Thompson does tours. Okay, he does tour guide work here. Let me show you guys something. He sent me a message here, and I'll just throw it up on the screen. You guys can see it there. Let me move this. Can I move this window here? No, I guess I can't, but we'll take down the comment here in a second, just for a moment. And then I'll just move myself. This is all the things that we do. Look at this one. Aquí está, papa. Okay, so Juan Thompson, if you guys are going down to Panama, especially for the Canal Zone reunion coming up here in January, but at any other time if you're going down to Panama, Juan Thompson, you know, obviously he's from the zone. He's a fellow Zonian, class of 87. Panama Custom Tours, okay? Do private tours. I know that Dave Rivera and Rick Rivera and their families had him take them all around the country. Fantastic time. He's got a beautiful finca out there. Colón, PTY, Campana, Pacific Beaches, El Valle. I mean, you name it, he's there. He's done a 22-day Panama excursion back in November 2022. Almost 6,000 kilometers were driven. Okay, so there you go, guys. Most of us have not been back to Panama since we left in the old Canal Zone days. Trust me, it has changed a lot. You probably don't want to be driving down there necessarily, but either way, go ahead and hit him up. He's on WhatsApp, but obviously you can find him on Facebook as well. But definitely hit him up and book something sooner than later. Don't do a typical Zonian and procrastinate, and then you call him up when you arrive, and he's like, "Dude, man, I'm
And the discount.
Yes, like that. Yeah, don't be asking for the Zonian discount, man. That always cracks me up when somebody wants a Zonian discount in a Zonian function. It's like, come on, man. What's the matter with you?
It was full price. Nah, the discounts are good. Richard.
Yes,
always
yes,
thank you,
yes.
Rich, man. Love
Good
seeing
to
you.
see you, Rich. Absolutely, yeah. Let's keep saying hello to some other people. But yeah, take care of Juan Thompson, guys. Hey, Dad, how you doing? Car 59 checking in.
Kahuna.
That was, yeah. Dad and Roberto Fabrica, that was their car. They did that quite a bit. These guys did a lot of hunting together and stuff. It was a great partnership there, I guess you
Look
could
at
call
this
it.
one from Lima, Peru.
Oh, right on. Down south. Woo. Now, Lima is south of the equator, right? Yeah, it's Colombia, Ecuador, and then Peru. Okay, yeah, so he's on the southern hemisphere. Right on. Well, good to hear from you.
We
That's
love it
Daniel.
when we're all spread out over the.
Yes, indeed. He's from Lima,
Happy
coming in,
one.
doubling
All right,
it up
Steve
there.
Tuckerman.
Yes, indeed, Steve. Steve sent me something earlier today that was kind of interesting. That we chat about this a little bit in our group there, our chat group. That there's a notice to airmen. They call them NOTAMs. Notice to airmen is something that the FAA puts out, and they basically are warnings and different things. Typically, if you have construction at somewhere, they say, hey, upon landing, watch out this runway here. There's construction. There's this, that, and the other. Well, they just put one out that said around the Maiquetía area. Maiquetía is the area where the Caracas airport is in Venezuela. In fact, that's what it's called, is Maiquetía. But they put some notices there saying, hey, watch out, man. There's going to be a lot of air traffic there, military air traffic, etc., in so many words. So I'm just wondering if something's not getting ready to go down. And a big hello here from Terelingua Big Bend National Park for Sherry Benninghoff de Lingren, my beautiful sister, who is celebrating her 21st birthday today. Yes.
Good. You know what, Willie? Let's just bring this out there. Guys, we've been thinking about this very much, and we are bringing back happy birthdays. We will once again start celebrating everybody. Willie and I both miss it, and so expect that soon to come.
Yeah,
happy
and
birthday.
so we'll kind of let's let me see something here real quick. No, it's not in there anyway, but let's see here. I heard, what did Andrew say? Throw it out there. Sorry, Ricky. We're double clicking. Go ahead. You run it. You're the executive producer here. I heard pickleball is picking up. Well, there you go. Probably is, man. That's picking up everywhere, man. And you know what? At our age, that's probably the sport to take up now, other than golf.
Yeah. The European version is called padel, like paddle, but they call it padel. I got a client here in California that's looking for those sites. Yeah, and that's similar to pickleball. So European version, and what they have is they integrate racquetball to pickleball. So in other words, you have these acrylic walls all the way around you that you can bounce the ball off like you do on racquetball. But that,
right on. Very good.
Right on, Andrew.
Very good.
Pickleball's huge, everybody.
Thinking of giving up jiu-jitsu for pickleball. Okay, well, yeah, that would certainly be a change. I would think that one probably is a little bit less strenuous.
Easier on the joints.
You guys are not live on Facebook. We're not live on Facebook, huh? Let me see something here. I know we okay. So we're live on the SCN Canal Zone Facebook page, not on the regular Facebook. But
Yeah.
anyhow, where will the World Cup games be played? That's great to know.
Next week?
There are actually a
No,
couple
2
of
weeks.
different venues. In fact, that's a good question. Let me throw something up there to see what you guys are thinking here. Bear with me just a moment. I'm going to show you guys something here and get your thoughts on this. Where is it? Where is it? Because I know I had this up here somewhere before. So I got a lot of stuff here. I'm already working on this one. No, it's not there. I had something. Where the hell was it that I put that up?
I don't know, but while you're doing that, look at what we got here. We need the center link to our historian.
I did send it.
Check it out. Check it out. Well, we're kind of late
Oh,
on.
I didn't.
We're kind
I'm
of late
sorry.
on,
You're right. I
on
didn't
comments.
send it. I thought I did. Couldn't. There it is. All right, you got it now, brother.
Right.
Yeah, we have a little bit off schedule, but because of different things here and there, such and whatnot, this, that, and the other. But we're gonna have some Canals on History Day because again, remember, guys, we're all caught up with this whole fever of Panama and the World Cup and everything. But this month is what they call El Mes de la Patria in Panama, right? And this is the month where they celebrate all the 39 or 40 different Independence Days, whatever the hell they had. But bottom line is that this is a month that they do all those things, right? They had several Independence Days. They got Flag Day, that the Cry for Independence, all those good things. So Dave Dahlstrom's going to be joining us. And he's going to go over a lot of this Panama history that pertains to this month of November, which is such a historical month for both Panama and of course the Canal Zone. So that's going to be kind of fun. A little change of dates there. Normally he's on for the beginning of the month, but nonetheless he'll be joining us here shortly. So again, where are the locations? I had a graphic, and I don't know what the heck I did with it, but I did have a graphic up that had a lot of these locations, and I thought I had saved it here somewhere, but nonetheless, I know that in Mexico, I know that it's Mexico City and Guadalajara are the two cities there. I don't think there's any other ones there. Canada has Vancouver, Toronto, and I think that's pretty much it in Canada. Maybe Edmonton or something. I think it's just Vancouver or Toronto. Now in the U.S., so that's where the bulk of the games are going to be played. Out on the West Coast, you have Seattle, you have San Francisco, and you have Los Angeles. In the middle, central, Midwest, whatever you want to call it, you've got Houston, you have Dallas, Chicago, and maybe Kansas City. I'm not sure if Kansas City is hosting a game or not. And then on the east side, you've got Miami, Atlanta, Washington, D.C., and New York. So, most of your big cities, certainly cities that are quite accessible. So on December 5th, again, 2 weeks from today, is the World Cup draw. Even though not all the teams are set, some of the spaces will be, they'll be adding a team there, but all the teams will know where they're playing, who's in their group, and what their matchups are going to be. And so at that point then is when all the fun speculation starts. You start watching players, you start tracking injuries, and then you start paying attention to some of these guys. This is now the interesting part for the managers of these teams when they qualify. One of the things that those guys are going to make sure that they do is start setting up some friendly matches with other countries. But typically you don't set up matches with countries that are playing in the World Cup. You set up with other countries that aren't qualified but obviously want to get some playing time anyway. But you try and match them up with teams. Let's assume that you get in a group with Brazil. Well, you're going to sign up to play against some teams that play similar style to Brazil so you can start preparing for them. And, it's almost like a scrimmage for them to get ready for it. So anyhow, enough soccer talk. I know that I could do this all night long. I love soccer. I live in, my son's name is Beckham. I'm a Man United fan, live and breathe soccer, but I'm excited for this. One last thing. I know I said enough about it. One last thing. As a Zonian, and I posted this earlier, that's kind of why we have this up here, as you can see. Born and raised in the Canal Zone, you have two teams in the World Cup. And we're the only ones that can say that can naturally say that. Okay, There's a lot of people out there that are, hey, well, my parents are
my
from
grandmother
here.
was born in Italy or something.
Right. But we were born. The Canal Zone was least U.S. territory, but it was still Panama territory. So we were born where two countries who are in the World Cup now are playing, and that's kind of a cool thing, and that's another unique Zonian thing there. But
Zonian flex.
now, for those of you guys out there, real quick, throw it in the chat there, and we'll go ahead and switch gears here. But if the United States and Panama play each other, who are you rooting for? I know I'm rooting for Panama. I always do when they play each other, but
You root for the game, and the bet. Whoever wins, it's beautiful. You root for there to be a good game to watch. That's my opinion on that.
yeah, okay, that's just participation trophy, Ricky there. But
I always win those.
no, I
Libra,
root
I'm
for
a Libra.
Panama. I just
We gotta play that Libra. It's a total DNA.
Yeah. That is very true. No doubt. You hit that on the head. But anyhow, so that's our soccer talk. Again, really excited for what's to come here. The World Cup is a great time there. If you want to stay informed, especially with this Canal Zone group, don't forget facebook.com/CZ World Cup is the Facebook page. Go ahead and join it and follow. We're going to have stuff on there all the time about it. Certainly when we know what teams are going to be where, we'll start making plans to try and get a big group of Zonians out to that city and root for the teams together. But anyhow, that's my soccer, man. Ricky, what do you got, man? Because we got Dave in the green
room. A little
room.
announcement for our Zonian community in Panama. As you guys know, one of our favorites of all time is Shorty and Slim, right? We love Alex and we love Sites. Well, guys, these guys are getting together and putting on. Well, they got invited actually to a fundraiser called "Why This Night Matters." And what it is, guys, is Shorty and Slim's going to be playing their best. Calypso, island music, known as From Panama with Love, for the Jamaican fundraiser for the hurricane people that were affected, that still till today don't have the basic needs to survive, water and dry clothes, etc. The Jamaica Youth for Christ are the people who are putting this together, and this is on the 22nd, which is tomorrow night, in El Cangrejo, Casa Colon. And Willie, this is the funny part. They tell you when it starts, but not when it ends. So, it's going to be one of those things that's going to go on the whole night, right? 6:30 tomorrow.
Right.
Casa Colon. It's a good, very good deal to see both Shorty and Slim and to donate a little money to the Jamaican relief.
Oh, right on.
So, it's going to be music, culture, unity to raise direct relief funds for those affected. So
Nice.
that's what we got. Willie, I got one more before we go to David. Willie, one of the things that were the most important things that as kids that we were growing up around this time was, Christmas is coming, right?
Right.
So the Christmas tree, the toy store, the catalog, etc. So we got two cute things that we want to tell you about. You guys remember Toys R Us? I mean, of course, we all remember Toys R Us. That was, the new generation's Toy Store, or what was our Toy store? Diablo. Toys R Us is the new Diablo toy store. Well, not new anymore, but they're no longer around. So the story is this: Toys R Us is making a comeback, guys.
How about that?
But they have chosen the 27 Latin American markets to start their, to restart their business. Panama being one of them. And the reason why is because, like Zonians, everybody in Latin America loves going to the toy store.
Okay.
Remember, that was a big event for us.
Yeah.
And the last but not least, before we move on to David and the rest of our Canal Zone history, is now Panama. I'm sure we talked about this last year, but just reminding everybody. Panama sells Christmas trees. Now, remember, we had to wait for our trees to come in from, was it Louisiana? Who knows? California, somewhere. By the time we got them, they were pretty dry and, whatnot.
Yeah.
And, stuff everywhere. Well, Panama, in the Volcan area, Cerro Punta, up in there, where they call Tierras Altas de Chiriquí.
Yep.
They sell Christmas trees, guys. So,
Wow.
take a trip up to Boquete and then go up there, get your Christmas tree, and come back home. Now, these guys have been doing it for quite a while. I would say like a couple of years, and they've already started this weekend to sell trees. People from Costa Rica, Willie, go there to buy their Christmas trees.
Okay.
So if you're in Panama, you want to get a Panamanian Christmas tree, go to Tierras Altas in Chiriquí, Volcan, Cerro Punta, up in that area. You'll find them all over the place. And they run from $35 for the average tree, and the big 9-10 footers are at about $145.
Okay.
So that's it, guys. That's what we have. Before
Heck
we
yeah.
move on.
Right
Thank you
on.
very much.
Well
That was
done.
a great intro segment. Liked it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, listen, we're going to go ahead and bring Dave in here because he's got some great history stuff there. Of course, before we do that, though, we got to mention our sponsors. One of our sponsors, of course, is Texit Coin. Still an opportunity to join there. The whole crypto market right now is in flux, but some interesting developments recently. You now are able to use ACH funding in order to buy crypto and couple other things. Also, I think the IRS made a move the other day to remove crypto from one of the what they call volatile currencies. So now again, it's becoming more of a regular accepted currency. Stable coins are becoming a big deal. So if you're interested, look up Texit Coin Miners. Check us out there and help us out. The Bucyrus Club. Help us grow this great crowdsourcing mining opportunity with Texit Coin and mine some cryptocurrency for your future and your generational future, because it's
right now it's what they call the dip. So you want to get in on a dip.
Correct. But like everything else, eventually it'll start crawling back up, and this one's going to be mining for about 135 years. So this is a generational opportunity to invest in something that maybe your kids or grandkids might have something that'll help them buy their first house, right? Or something down the road of their retirement. But anyhow, check it out, texitcoin.com. And then our other sponsor, our big sponsor here, is Howler Monkey Sauce. This is a Canal Zone company. Okay, 2 Zonians, Conan Herring, and Tommy Ellis have created this amazing hot sauce. They've expanded to 4 of them. Okay, and these guys are gracious enough for the next 6 months are going to be sponsoring us. We've got a couple of videos that we're rolling out for them to talk about these hot sauces with some really cool characters and spokespersons. So here's the first one, and then next week we should have the next character out there. But enjoy it and give these guys some love, guys. Howler Monkey Sauce is all natural. It's no preservatives. It's made with that ají chombo pepper. It's just amazing. If you can't find it in your local grocery, you can get it on Amazon. You can order all 4 flavors. We're getting into that eating season, that gift-giving season. Give somebody the gift of some Panama love with some hot sauce with Howler Monkey Sauce. But anyway, check these guys out.
Howler Monkey Sauce sent me to the jungles of Panama in search of their new spokesperson, and let's see if we find them.
Hey, listen, you don't need to keep looking for a spokesperson. You found me. I love this Howler Monkey hot sauce.
Wow. Okay, and what's your name?
They call me Balboa up here in these trees.
Roll camera and action.
This one, the Amarillo, is going to be amazing on chicken. Trust me.
Do you know a howler monkey who can describe the sweet heat of our original with authentic ají chombo peppers, or the fresh punch of verde where habanero warmth meets crisp bell pepper? How about the bold tang of Amarillo, yellow Scotch bonnets blended with mustard seeds? And of course, our hot, the same great flavor as original, with red habaneros for that fire. Our sauces are all natural, no preservatives, gluten-free, pure flavor and pure fire. Are you the next Howler Monkey spokesperson?
Uncage the
Absolutely,
flavor,
man.
uncage the monkey, man. So
Yeah, and we're so grateful for the sponsorship, guys.
Yeah.
6 months. Was it 4?
6 months. Yeah, 6 months they agreed to sponsor us. So very, very appreciative of that.
Yeah,
And
look,
and
we
I'll-
were-
listen, guys, before they jumped on, I've been talking about this since the beginning, because I absolutely do love this hot sauce. They sell it at the grocery store where I shop here at Publix, which is great because anytime I'm running low, I'm at the grocery store, I just grab it. But It is. It really is delicious. It's very flavorful. The cool thing about it is when you take it out, you got to shake it up, man, because all of that stuff settles, which is what
Anywhere.
something that doesn't have those preservatives and all that, what they call that xanthan gum, those thickeners and all that stuff. All that stuff is no good for you, as we're learning today. So these guys are all natural. They have a great flavor to them. And it's a couple of Zonians, man. We can certainly support a fellow Zonian in their business. So definitely check them out on Amazon. Just look up Howler Monkey Sauce and feel that heat, man. So
and thank you for the sponsorship. As you can see, our background, that's what that stuff all pays for.
Yes,
and it's
indeed.
a very stable night, Willie. I hope I don't jinx
it. It is so far so good. Fingers crossed, So
fingers crossed, yeah.
But anyway, Dave Dahlstrom, how you doing, man? Middle of the month here.
How you guys doing, man? Don't ever ask me to do this again.
I know, right? No,
I thought when he said the 21st, I had 3 weeks.
Yes. And all of a sudden, here it was.
I can't do this in 2 weeks.
I know, right? Well, especially with this month, there's so much going on this month.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Fortunately, I had a lot left over from last time that I didn't get through, and I even pared it down and still have 120 slides.
And we have a full house here to watch you
it's not in perfect order. I didn't have a chance to get it in perfect order, so we might take a little detour now and then. But I'm going to try to keep us on track. And before we do that, I want to say I think they have the Howler Monkey hot sauce at the Firehouse Subs here in Maryland.
Oh, right on.
Yeah,
look at that.
I've seen it at
and we just
places.
got
they always have like 20 different hot sauces and then they have them rated between like 1 to 10 on the hot, and then you put it on your subs.
Heck yeah, right on.
Yeah.
And that cheering we just heard was somebody just bought us a beer. Thank you. I think I know who it was, but thank you so much for doing that. We really appreciate that. There's a, well, let me see. Is it on there? With this new screen set up here, we got to work things around here. But yeah, there's that QR code there. So definitely if you want to help us out here and buy us a beer, scan that QR code and, and buy a beer for us here to help keep this show going there. And again, as you can see, there's the Howler Monkey on the other side there. Great stuff. This is that original, this is the Amarillo actually, because this is my favorite. They have original Amarillo, as you saw in the commercial, the Verde, the green one, and the red, which is, that one brings more heat. If you're not too much on the heat, avoid that one. But again, they're all really flavorful stuff, good stuff there. But anyhow, Dave, let's do your thing, man.
All right, so let's go to the agenda here. We're going to do a little bit of a recap from last time. Like you mentioned, this is Independence Month in Panama, and we started talking about the Panama flag. I had some stuff out of order last time, so we're going to recap some of the stuff that I missed on that. Right on. And then we're going to focus on Felipe Buenavarilla. We've all heard of that guy's name.
We love him, yeah.
And I've always heard mixed things about him, but I was reading some stuff, the last couple months, and I'm like changing my opinion.
Okay.
Because when we do this show, I like to dive deep into these topics. Sure. A lot of the stuff you read, and even the stuff I'm going to show you tonight, you just get the one sentence summary of what happened, and not all the things that transpired to make that happen. You just get the results, but not how it's made. And so I try to get into that, but of course we could be here all night if we got into all the details. So I even have to cut a bunch of stuff out.
Right.
And then I saw this article, and it was called Ripley. It was from Ripley's Believe It or Not. It was a radio show back in the 40s or 30s. And it was called The Man Who Invented Panama, and it had Buenavarilla's picture there. And I'm like, how can they say that? How do they say that this guy invented Panama? I mean, and so I read it, and I was just shocked about this man's career and all the things that he did kind of behind the scenes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We've been studying that, Willie and I.
They all came together at the right time.
Yes.
And a lot of it is, it's a lifetime of connections, and it's being at the right place at the right time, and meeting people and have other people talk to other people, and it just kind of serendipitous how it happened. And one of the most interesting things that I found about it, you know how we were talking last time about, on August 15th, the first official transit and all these dignitaries that were on it. You know who was on that ship?
Huh.
Buenaventura.
It would make sense.
I know, but you never hear that.
But you don't hear that. You're right. And that one you would assume would have been prominent in any pictures.
He probably hadn't cashed the check.
So, just stuff like that. So I thought we'd spend a little bit of time. I know he's not Panamanian.
Right.
But he did have a lot to do with the invention of Panama.
Yeah. In some funny way, it makes sense.
And so I don't know. I always kind of had this like he was a scoundrel type of thing. It wasn't Panamanian, all this stuff. But
that book caused that to happen like that.
It is the story, and he's going to tell his side of it.
Yeah.
And just like any story, I never do anything wrong. Do you?
No, not me.
So,
if you ask our
so then we're going to kind of deep dive into some of the separation and some of the other players that were involved. That these are names that I never really heard of.
Sure.
And so I thought I would just introduce some of these folks. And again, it's going to get a little bit wonky.
Right.
And on some of the slides, I have to apologize that it's just a bunch of text that you can't read. But it's the only way I can see my notes.
Right.
Is to put it on a screen, because like right now when I'm looking at the phone, it's a postage stamp. I can't read anything. So and I can't memorize all this stuff. I'm sorry.
Right.
But so the third slide, I guess, is I'm calling it the timeline for the Canal Zone.
Okay.
Because up until this point, there was no Canal Zone before.
Right.
They weren't calling it necessarily the Canal Zone. When the French were doing it.
Right.
But but the first French company, we talked about last time, Lucien Weiss, he went to Colombia and he actually took Amador with him, and they negotiated the Weiss concession, which basically was a private French company. The French Canal Company was given the rights to dig a canal, and they were given until this was in 1878. And they were given until 1893 to construct that canal, just like the Panama Railroad was given a certain amount of time to construct the railroad. And their concession said they were going to build the railroad all the way out to the Causeway Islands. And if they didn't do that, they'd have to pay $20,000 a year for every year they didn't do it. And they didn't do it for 10 years. So they paid $200,000, which is, in those days, that was several million.
A lot of money. Yeah, it sure is. No
right.
kidding.
But what they ended up doing was renegotiating that to build the wharf in La Boca. But originally they were supposed to build the railroad out to the island and stuff like that. So these are private companies working, getting a concession with the country to do it.
And
then,
what's
of
interesting,
course,
Dave, is that you mentioned that Amador went with him.
Yeah.
Well, he was the lead man before Buenaventura. They had sent him to Washington before.
Well, Amador and a lot of these guys worked for the Panama Railroad. Amador was the physician for the Panama Railroad.
Yep.
That's amazing. These people are so intertwined in all that.
Exactly. I mean, you start reading this thing and you're like, I never knew that. I never knew that guy worked for the Panama Railroad. Panama Railroad had a lot to do with this.
Becoming a country, yes, absolutely.
They really did. And, they're all tied back to New York.
Sure. Well, when the most valuable company in the world is based in Panama, it's going to give it prominence.
Yeah, and the first person they sent Guerrero when they went to the United States was to Wall Street before he went to the Capitol. He first went to talk to the investors before
secure funds.
Yeah, before the U.S. government.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit. Not so much the Wall Street stuff, but the visits to the United States prior to November 3rd.
Okay.
But it's just basically it was just a couple months prior. Things happened pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because the Colombians were still at war for a while. But anyway, the first lease that Weiss negotiated, it was 99-year lease, same as the Suez Canal. 99 year. That was Hong Kong was the same way. The British got Hong Kong for 99 years. We know that ended too, and it was $10 million plus $250,000 annuity to Colombia. To Colombia, not to Panama. So if they were going to share that 10 million with the 12 provinces, what do you get? $800,000.
Right.
And if you did it by population, what do you get? 50 cents.
Which is the way they would have figured it out. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So that money would have gone to
And Panama's already being viewed as that
Bogota.
rebel province anyway, so it
the
would have been even
central
less.
the central part of it.
Yeah, sure.
So it, that canal deal wasn't necessarily a boon for the province necessarily. I mean, and it was a sea level canal, and basically the ship's just going to come in the canal and just sail right on through. So,
Yeah.
But anyway, it was set up just like the Suez Canal was kind of set up to run a certain amount of time and stuff like that. So this guy, Lucien Bonaparte Weiss, and this is him at the French Plaza. There's a statue of him. Just so if you're ever down at the French Plaza, and now you know who this guy was. And the next picture is the one I took. He's on one of the pillars there, and
okay.
so if you go to the next one, he's on the pillar that's on the far right, kind of at the bottom of the image. So if you're in the French Plaza in front of the Obelisk, that's de Lessep's there in the center, and then that's Weiss right there on the right side. So he's given a very prominent position, basically one of the founding fathers of the canal and stuff. And we'll talk about this in a little bit, but just something we talk about, the Weiss concession and stuff like that. But it's kind of like, who is this guy? And we walk past him all the time when we go down there, and don't really necessarily know who he is.
Sure.
So, so the other things I want to just kind of talk about related to one of our area is that one of the chief engineers from the French, his name was Dingler. And he went down in January of 1884. This was, the canal had already started, but he went down there with his family, his wife, his son-in-law, and stuff like that. Well, his wife died, his son-in-law died, his daughter got sick, and so after being there, his family died. He went back to France in October of. I guess he got there in October. No, he got there in January of 1884, but he left in October of 1884. Okay. And then he was coming back in January of 1886. I can't remember. I may have got this thing wrong. Looks like I have a wrong date on there. I think he was there for 2 years. He went back in January of 1886 to Paris. He's all distraught.
Okay. Sure.
But then he comes back to Panama in October of 1886, and on that ship is Buenaventura. And Buenaventura just graduated from school, École Polytechnique, which basically is like the French MIT and Harvard and everything.
Right.
Any special student went to that school.
Yes.
And so he was a pretty bright guy, and he just graduated, and he went to Panama to work on the canal. He grew up learning about the Panama Canal, and that's what he wanted to do. And they arrive in October of 1886, and he gets assigned to be the engineer to the first third of the Panama Canal, basically Pacific entrance to Culebra. And so that's just wanted to show what's going on. But in 1886, de Lesseps also comes to Panama to restore confidence, because around that time is when their bankruptcy issues start coming into play, and they're having problems. And so when Buenaventura gets there, he gets there just as things are starting to end.
Right.
So the next one. So this is 1886, and this is when de Lesseps comes down to inspect the construction. He hadn't ever been there since the groundbreaking that happened in 1880, January 1st, 1880. Right. So 6 years he never went there. He was just basically the fundraiser for this. And apparently the members of the French government, the Public Works Department and stuff, were blackmailing the company. They knew that they were having problems and stuff like that. They weren't reporting it publicly, but basically this guy would say, "Look, if you don't give me money, I'm going to tell everybody you guys are failing." And
heck yeah.
And it was de Lesseps' son was working for the company, and the story is that his son didn't tell his father that they were being blackmailed and stuff, and they didn't learn about this until it went to trial. Huh. But he went down there. I mean, it's a pretty grand celebration that they had right there, and that's the Grand Hotel right there in Cathedral Square. So it's pretty amazing. I'd love to see what that thing looked like, and Too bad it's not still around, that tower.
Yeah, right.
All
Like
right.
an arch, like the Arc de Triomphe or something.
Yeah, it looked like it.
All right. Okay. So, so then the second French company starts in 1894. So this is, like 5 years later have already passed.
And I bet most people don't know that, Dave, that
Yeah.
there was actually two different companies that tried to work it.
Right.
It wasn't all just a one company.
Yeah, and they just didn't happen back to back. There was some time that had passed because these guys were all under trial and all that stuff.
Sure, sure.
And so the concession was extended. Basically, Weiss went back, and actually, this might have been the time that Amador went with Weiss to Colombia, sure. But it was extended, and then just 4 years later, the new French company runs out of money again, and so Buenaventura leaves for Paris.
He's like, I'm out, man.
Hey, we're running out of money. We've got to close up shop and try to find some buyers and stuff. And he actually left the company at that time. But it's going through liquidation and stuff. But they're also searching for buyers. And so we'll talk about it a little bit later. But one of the buyers that Buenaventura tried to wrangle was Russia.
Interesting.
And another company that Colombia was trying to deal with was German.
Okay.
And they also the French company was trying to sell the rights to the United States. This is, after 1998. This is like 1899 when the U.S. was determining whether they should go to Nicaragua, and the first Isthmian company hadn't even been done. But they were already in talks with the U.S. back then. But back then, the price was $109 million.
And this was at kind of the tail end of the whole colonial era around the world. And so there wasn't a whole lot of worlds left to colonize. And so United States starts barking that they want to build a canal. All of a sudden, you might get some of these Russian and Germans to say, hey, wait a minute, this is our chance to get into Latin America.
And one of the things that we'll talk about in one of these slides, if we get to it, is that when Buenaventura goes to the United States before November 1903,
right?
One of his colleagues that we'll talk about tells him that the U.S. is looking about taking Panama.
Yeah, that was one of the options. Just take it, right?
Yeah, take it. We got this 1846 treaty. We might just invoke it.
Yeah. Hey, I mean,
but there's also that fear about being colonialist and all that other stuff like that. So, so we'll talk about some of these Russian buyers and stuff later. And
one of the reasons Germany is on that list is because the Germans funded and armed the conservatives in the 1,000-Day War. So they just
they already had a footprint in that area.
And not only that, they funded the Mexicans in the the Spanish, or what was it? I guess it was a Mexican Civil War, and we'll talk about that. All these things are related. It's amazing how many wars these guys were in. And France was in war with Germany, and just Napoleon and all these things are going on. There's a lot of craziness, flux, man. A lot of craziness.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I found was interesting is that these guys are going through liquidation and they're looking for a buyer. That Colombia was the second largest shareholder in the new Panama Canal Company.
Wow.
So when we say the money was sent, to the French company, well, it actually gets sent to the shareholders.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I don't know how much the second largest shareholder of the new Panama Canal Company is, if it was like 10%, 30%, 50%. Sure. But whatever that was, let's say it was 50%. No, it can't be 50% because that would be just as large as the first. Yeah. Let's say it's 20%. 20% of 40 million was going to the Colombian government.
Right.
And they wanted it, and I've read where the president of Colombia at the time was more of a dictator, and he was looking for that money for himself, really.
I'm sure.
But what this says is that the shareholders, they held a meeting in December of 1901, and they authorized to make a proposal to sell it to the United States, which had been accepted. And then also the Republic of Colombia accepted it. So these guys were ready to sell it. And I guess it's one of the reasons why the United States was so pissed off at Colombia for not signing the Hey Treaty, because it's like, hey, you guys already agreed
all the boxes
to
have been
do
checked.
It.
Yeah.
Right. The president negotiated, but they didn't have to go to Congress.
The Senate.
And that's the Senate. And that's what
correct. The Colombian Senate turned it down. Well,
right. So it just all these little things that
bonehead moves, the biggest bonehead moves in history. That would be one of them.
Yeah, and I think and Buenaventura realizes this is that hey, Panama, don't make the same mistakes, man. It's like don't snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, So
well, and you think Buenaventura.
Here's the deal, guys. The Panamanian delegation did accept the deal. That is true. But it was the same as the Colombian deal, which was only 7 miles, right? And so when they came back, but then once the United States decided they were going to take it over, then they came back to the Panamanians after they had already agreed to that first deal. They came back with no, not 7 miles, 10 miles.
Well, but Buenaventura has a different story on that.
Okay, yeah,
similar. And we'll get to that.
But different. I know that the money was also different.
And I have to imagine at this point in time, Buenaventura understanding everything that's going on and seeing what Colombia is doing and not doing.
Right.
He's probably leaning towards Panama going, listen, this is a small group here. We established a country here. There's no Senate there. We're not negotiating with 500 people. It's 2 or 3 people.
Yep.
Much easier.
It wasn't 2 or 3. It was 2 groups. It was the merchants that were always in Panama.
Yeah, but Ricky, you had 4 or 5 people that were representing all of these people, and that's who you were negotiating with. You didn't have an entire Senate and an entire Congress and stuff to deal with.
No, because there was no Panamanian.
That's my point.
Yeah,
and that's what I think Buenaventura saw and said, hey, wait a minute, let's lean towards Panama. It's going to get done much easier because you've now hit how many roadblocks with Colombia now?
Yeah,
and they're probably getting tired of it.
Panama had a military too. Panama did it.
Right.
So all right, so let's move on. Different topic, but similar. We've already talked a little bit about it. The French Plaza. I learned this about the French Plaza.
Oh, right on.
I've heard it called Plaza de Armas. I've never heard it called Bastion de Chiriquí, but apparently that was the French Plaza that we know was designed by Leonardo Villanueva Mayer, and it cost $35,000 Balboas in 1921, and it was inaugurated after they installed that obelisk in the middle, and on the top of it is the rooster, which is symbol of France, and and then you can see the bus, and we showed some pictures of the bus. One of them is Lucien Weiss, another Pedro Sosa, and Ferdinand de Lesseps, and there's a couple of others that are there. But in the middle of that monument, there was a what's it called? That holds water. Well, not a well, but
the wall.
No.
A moat.
Not a moat. No, for drinking water.
An aqueduct.
A cistern.
Okay.
And it would probably make sense is that if you're under attack and stuff and you can't get water, you have the water supply there and stuff like that. And it was used for military operations. And of course, that seawall and stuff, it became known as the Esteban Huertas Walkway, and that was the Colombian general that I supported the revolution, I guess, is the one that they bought. I don't know, but
the one that suddenly became wealthy and retired.
But that to me, that's just surprising that they would name that walkway after a Colombian general.
Right.
But I guess he played a part in it too.
He did.
But those are some of the things that I didn't really know. I knew it. It had. It wasn't always the French Plaza, and it had been used like Bovadas and all that stuff. Right. The other thing that I learned about it is that in the 1840s, 1850s, 60s, is that when the Panama Railroad was being built and was constructed, they hired a group of or at least the lead was an ex-Texas Ranger, like Rand Runnels, and they called him the Isthmian Guard, and they basically became the law, and they were judge, jury, and executioner.
Of course.
And apparently there was some issue, and he went into Panama City, rounded up 37 people, and hung them all.
Wow. Okay.
And some of these
Later
were like
done.
local Panamanian businessmen. And then another time he like, and they hung him off the seawall. And another time there were like 47 of them that were, and so that was Wild West back then.
Yeah, well, and that, it was always about sending a message. You
Yeah.
hung these people, and you probably leave them sitting out there for a couple of days. And
Yeah, so
everybody else
that
goes
place
annoyed.
has a history, and originally it was known as the Bastion of Chiriquí. Had a cistern in the central area, and then it was also used exclusively for military. And I guess the Colombians used to have their barracks there. And then in 1920, it was transformed into the monument complex to create a space to highlight the glory of pioneers of progress linked to the construction of the French Canal.
There you go.
And so they didn't even build the canal. They started, but they didn't build the canal. And they get this monument.
Right. They just went there, stole money, and died.
So I'm wondering who actually funded that. It must have been funded by some French organization, in my opinion.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I'd like to learn more about that. But that in 1921, basically, right when the canal is being officially dedicated, right after the war, that they've got to honor these guys.
Sure.
I mean, it regardless, these guys, they did a lot in their own right, and they tried their best, I guess. But then the last thing, well, in this, you can see the picture of the inauguration ceremony.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that thing decked up like that again.
Yeah, right.
Just a repro. 100 years ago, that would have been a neat thing to, in 2021 to recreate.
Yeah.
Then, of course, the bust of de Lesseps is there.
Yeah.
Right there on and then I found this next picture, and it was 1919, I believe.
Okay.
And or no, it was before that. I can't remember. I don't have my notes here, but it looks to me that this is looking, like right where 4th of July Avenue is, and looking back up Sosa Hill from Casco Viejo.
You mean Ancon Hill?
Ancon Hill. I'm sorry.
Interesting. Okay, so that would almost on to the right of this picture would be where I guess where Gorgas Hospital would be.
Yeah, around that
More or
area.
less, roughly?
Yeah, up on that side. I mean,
Wow,
it's hard to tell. I do know when I've seen some of the old maps. If you're familiar with where the old moat was, there was a field like for grazing, and I'm wondering if like this field that I'm seeing in the foreground was that grazing field that I've seen on the maps. But it's just kind of, there wasn't a whole lot there.
No, certainly wasn't.
I'm not exactly sure where the location of that is, but I was surprised to see how little development and how rural it looks. I mean, there's like farm fields you can see.
And that's 1921?
No, this has got to be before.
I think it's a little bit before that.
Yeah. Looks like it's way before that, right?
All right. So next one. We had talked about Victoriano Lorenzo last time and him being executed. And then we'll go. This is Victoriano, who was executed in 1902. And then I had the picture of the execution, and in the background you could see the cathedral towers.
Yeah.
And then now, I started thinking about it. I went and looked at some of the photographs that I have, and this must be at Plaza de Armas. You can see there's like a seawall there.
Yeah.
And then when I go and I go to the next picture, there's this plaque on the right. It says Victoriano Lorenzo. It's a dedication to him, but it's almost like that's almost the spot where he was executed too.
Because
and
it wouldn't
then
make any sense to put it there for any other reason.
well, there's two other plaques there, but I've got a picture of. I thought I had a picture. Oh, it's coming up. But when you go back and you go to the next slide, and you look back in the distance, like in the center between that, on either side of that street light, you can see the cathedral tower sticking up a little
Oh
bit.
yeah, look
Now
at
there's
that.
buildings covering
Okay.
it, but it's about the same angle and generally about the same area. And go to the next one, you can see it a little bit better, a little closer.
Are those the Don Bosco Cathedral? Is that what we're seeing in the background? Don Bosco?
It might be. You now you mention that.
Is that
Like
is that the one on
in there.
Cathedral Plaza, Don
Yeah.
Bosco?
Oh no! That's not the one on Cathedral Plaza. You're right. That's a different. Don Bosco's down.
It's the one that has all the oyster shells on the.
Yeah. Okay, you're right. I
top
forgot
part.
what that one's called, but you're right. That's in the Casco Viejo area.
Yeah.
But going back to these pictures there again, if you go back and forth here, okay, yeah, you saw this one there, and then you go back to this one, yeah, and all just about the same angle. No kidding.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow. Okay. Look at that. That does make sense, and that is by.
He was a good tactician. That's why they got rid of him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then I took this, and so it's probably, and that's just a few feet from that where the snow cone
Yeah, right.
vendor is, and so it that even though it doesn't say here's the place, it's somewhere in between there, I think.
It would
in that
make
area.
sense. I mean,
So
why
just
else
the
would you
next
put
time
that
you're
there?
down there, just know where you are and what happened in those areas.
Sure.
All the, you know about the prisoners that were kept on the Balboas, but I never knew about the townspeople that were hung off the edge of the seawall, and some of those other things that happened. Probably many other things happened there too. That I don't know. Then the next thing I found was some pictures of these old pesos, Panamanian pesos. So these would have been the currency that was being used right until independence.
The US dollar. Yeah.
Yep.
So 1903. Yeah.
And what's interesting, if you look at the bottom of it, if you can see the writing on there, it says Compañía Americana de Billetes de Banco Nueva York. So that's where they're minting these things. So even if it wasn't a dollar, it's still the U.S. is still involved there somehow, even with their currency.
All right, and the next one is a $5 note.
Okay, look at that.
Banco de Panama, and it's got the ship and the train.
The train, the railroad, yeah.
On there, and the same man's on the picture. I'm not sure who that is. Antonio
Banderas.
Could be the governor, Obaldia.
I can't read it. Let me zoom in.
Antonio, let me see here if we can zoom in on
Placas.
Lacas, something like that. Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
that is, yeah. There was a Lacas president.
Well, this one with a P. It starts with a P, it looks like.
Sorry.
Placas.
Lacas.
So I have to look them up.
Yeah, I'll definitely look that one up.
This is one of these things. All right. So then, kind of wrapping up to the history of the Panama flag. Flag Day was on the 4th, and then the official adoption of the flag actually happened in 1925. So it turns 100 this year.
That's so bizarre that they went that long having a country established before they actually officially adopted it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we saw all the other flags. There's a part of reason for that.
Right. But that's a long time, though. I mean,
it was all unanimous.
A couple years is one thing,
on
man, but you're talking here 2 decades.
Yeah. I mean, just may not be one of those things that you really think about right away.
Hey,
but,
man, we forgot a flag, man. What?
Yeah. Well, go to the next one. The next one is the original flag. Remember we talked the bandera herida, the wounded flag, and then they've got it. They're sending this one up to Spain to get restored.
Yeah.
But then this is what I meant to talk about it last time when we didn't. Is that so? This is after the declaration had been made, and then Amador leaves the house, and he goes sees this gentleman called Prescott, and basically I guess they went and they approved independence, and then the Panamanian population was celebrating with music and fireworks, and a revolver shot the newly released flag as it passed by.
Of course.
So that hole in it is because people were partying and celebrating, and they shot the flag. So I don't know what it is with Panamanian and flag.
And that was the first time that the phrase in Panama was uttered, "Eso te pasa por ahuevao." And it continued to go on from there ever since then with the hole in the flag.
Yeah. But
oh,
but anyway, that's why it's called the wounded flag. Is it got shot by the partiers, the revelers. So they're super excited. So accidents happen. So this is Amador and his wife, his second wife, and children that he had with his second wife. I don't have pictures or anything of his first family, but this is a story that his eldest son from his first marriage, Manuel, talks about. And one of the comments that we had last time said that Miss Amador is the one that made the flag. Well, she's the one that sewed the flag, but this is the story that that the son is telling. And he says that he was at his father's house with Maria. I think Maria was the wife of Amador, and they arrived with the news of the need for the flag. And in this letter that he wrote in 1951, this is what he recalls. He says, "I stood up," and this is the son, "and energetically and invited them to follow me to an old desk that my father kept in perfect order for the purpose of his small securities business. Once there, my eyes caught the presence of the specimen of 2 colored pencils that came from Vienna, always colored with exquisite care." And then this desk, the next slide, is in the Panama Canal Museum, and this is Amador's desk. It says in there that this is where he wrote like the independence, but it also might be the desk that the son is talking about using to draw the flag. So I don't know, but if it was his desk,
I can't imagine he had a bunch of desks sitting around everywhere.
Yeah.
You kind of have your desk. That's where you do your work.
Right. But so I'm putting 2 to 2 together and saying it might be.
Yeah.
So anyway, if it's not, it's a cool desk. It's in the museum. Go check it out. Nice. So he took that pencil and a sheet of white paper from the drawer, and he drew a vertical line to simulate the flagpole, and then on the right, to simulate a flag, he drew an oblong quadrilateral, basically a rectangle, and then he drew 2 crosses along its entire length, which gave me 4 quarters. And in the upper quarter, next to the flagpole, he traced the outline of a 5-pointed star, which he colored blue on its entire surface. And then in the lower right, he traced a star and had it in red, and they were in opposite quarters. And then the next slide, he says, after he finished, I displayed before his mom and dad, and after a few seconds of thinking about it, he asked me this question. I have no concrete conception of the symbolism, nor even up to this moment regarding this strange creation. Perhaps we can squeeze out of its own meaning and attribute it to something it marvelous attributes. So it's kind of like,
it's almost like random thoughts.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of this thing. We're gonna have to make up something that sounds that we can sell. So
give it meaning after the fact.
Yeah, no, the significance of the red and blue is the conservatives and the liberals.
That's what they say, though. But according to the story, they didn't have anything. They're saying, let's maybe use that as a story. Then.
Oh yeah. Oh, maybe that's why till 1925 they probably finally.
That could be. But I guess when he drew it, he just that came to his his mind, and that's what he put down the paper.
Right.
So
with no story behind it, just that just came to mind and he drew it.
So he said what came to his mind was that the traditional political parties that have been fought in bloody wars embrace each other in the field of peace to build a country. Note that there is not more of one color than that represents the parties than the other. So the red and the blue are equal, and almost twice as much white as those that add up. And the white, I guess, is supposed to symbolize peace. The blue symbolizes purity and honesty, and the red symbolizes authority and law that will enforce the rule of these virtues. Okay. So the blue was for purity, and the red for law.
Makes sense.
And then his father pulled him towards him and said, "Very well, make the flag right away, Mary." So she gets credited for sewing it, and then she got down to work on it, and she thought of everything. And we talked about this last time, that to avoid suspicion, she bought the different colors at different stores around town. She got the white from the French Bazaar, and the blue from La Dahlia, and then the red at La Villa de Paris. So she wouldn't arise suspicion, because those weren't Colombian colors. And then also that Jose Domingo Obaldia, the governor, was actually living in their house at the time, and he wasn't necessarily a supporter.
Sure,
he was the governor of the province, not the leader of the opposition. So
well, that Bogota, what I read in the research that we're doing, what I read is that Bogota didn't trust him or Huerta. They thought that those guys were working with the other side.
Yeah. Well, he said he wasn't going to stand in their way if they did it. So
correct.
So
the lack of trust was valid then.
Yeah. So on the second, she packed up the wool and the things, and they went to her brother's house, and it was located on Avenida Sur, I guess South Avenue, and on the corner next to the electric plant. I don't know if that's still there, but she found her sister-in-law, and she told her what she was doing, and so they began to make the flag. They cut the materials, and to make two flags. And then they decided that they weren't going to do the work in the house, but they'd go to one next door, which was also located on the same street, and it was unoccupied. And so they had to basically break through a small window and go up a ladder to get inside it. And then they had a handheld sewing machine that was passed through, and then they placed the sewing machine on a box, since there wasn't furniture on it, and cut out the squares on the floor, and then they worked to sew the flags up, wrapped them in the papers, and then went back to the house located
very
in the Cathedral Plaza area. So that flag was made right there in old. So then it goes on, and we talked about this last time, that events moved quickly on the 3rd. They were going to declare their independence on the 28th, but things happened, and they had to do it a little bit earlier.
Speed it up.
And then the flag was baptized in the Plaza de Armas on the 20th of December. And we talked about that a little bit last time. And then go on to the next one. Going back to that ends my flag story, basically.
Okay, interesting.
Goes. But then going back to the timeline for the Canal Zone, the conspirators, there were a number of them, and they sent Beers, he worked for the Panama Railroad. I think he was like storehouse and stuff like that. But they sent him to New York in July, and maybe he was working with the people on Wall Street and others, but Amador was sent in September.
The groundwork
to arrange details for a possible uprising. I'm not exactly sure who Amador was meeting with, but it could be those folks that Ricky was talking about. I need to read the Amador book. And when he went, when when Amador went up in September is when he got involved with Buenaventura. So this wasn't something that was like pre-planned. They both were in New York at the same time, and
well, and Buenaventura is probably by this point has established so many contacts there that he knew that this is going on here, and he needs to get his foot in the door here and make sure you don't miss out on his cut.
Yeah, because we'll get to it, but he was in France, and actually came to America, and he had been trying to sell the Panama Canal over the Nicaraguan Canal for many years.
Sure.
And he basically was told that he would be given a signal if like he was needed. And so he gets this call to come to the United States to talk to like the New York Chamber of Commerce and stuff like that. And he's like, "Oh, that's my signal."
There it is. That's the bat signal.
And so yeah, they were. It appears that they were working independently. I mean, Buenaventura was trying to make a sale.
Sure.
And then and kind of it seems like he kind of ran into, oh, I'm also going to help a country become independent.
Right.
But that's how I'm going to make my sale is making this deal happen.
And I have to believe that there's rumors are starting to fly around in different areas, so they probably inadvertently were pushing each other because they're like, hey, before the guy cuts the deal with someone else and I'm out, I better get involved somehow.
Yeah. So go to the next slide. So Buenaventura arrives in New York from France on September 22nd. So that's, just 2 months. I mean, 6 weeks before.
Right.
The Panama conspiracy was not doing well. The Colombians had learned of Amador's activities in New York. Mm-hmm. And Thomas Horan, who was the Colombian, warned Cromwell, who was an attorney that was involved with Panama Railroad and other things, hey, watch it. And Cromwell had met with Amador and basically said, I'm not going to see you. And it could be that he was playing it safe because Colombians were watching. So he cables the Superintendent Shaler. We know who Shaler is at Panama. And but Cromwell was an attorney for Panama Railroad, and he said, don't become involved in any movements. But it's kind of like they're saying, it's like a wink thing, right?
Right.
So
officially don't do it.
Yeah, so Colombia did know something was going on, but there was a lot going on in Colombia at that time too. So they basically were stretched a bit thin. And then Buenaventura says that he came to the United States. It was accidental, and he denies that Cromwell summoned him, but his buddy Pavey summoned him. But so technically he was truthful. Cromwell didn't do it, but the guy that works with him did. Plausible
deniability.
Yep, exactly. So this guy who's reporting this says it's hard to believe that they didn't know, because Cromwell's partner was in touch with him.
Right.
And this guy Joshua Lindo worked for the bank.
Yeah, they all knew.
But anyway, it says that. Anyway, it says that the conspiracy was again set in motion. So these guys were working everything to get this thing to go.
Sure, but if it didn't work out, they're like, "Hey, it wasn't me, man. I'm good."
Yeah, right.
Make sure they covered themselves.
So it says in many respects, Buenaventura was aptly suited for the role that he played in the revolution. He knew the geography of Panama. He witnessed the United States landing on the isthmus during the disturbance there in 1885. And we've talked about that in the past. The Pedro Perstown, they burned down Cologne.
Right. Well, and he stood to gain the most, so you knew he was going to take an active role no matter what.
But he saw the U.S. troops come in and take action, and he actually witnessed Pedro Perstown's hanging.
Oh wow!
Because he was still there in 1885.
Off the railroad, right?
Yeah, I've seen the pictures. They strung the a line across the railroad tracks, and then they put them on the platform or a roof of a railroad car, and then they move the railroad car, and apparently had a very horrible death. But but again, he knew what the U.S. could do, and they were obligated to protect Colombia from uprisings. And actually, Pedro Passan had taken 4 American hostages, I think, of the Panama Railroad Company, but they weren't harmed. But it was, that they had, how many uprisings did they have? A lot of them. But
it was a very tumultuous time in
all
that
right, so
isthmus.
let's go on to the next one. We got so many things to go through, but one of the other names that you'll hear a lot in these things is Francis Loomis. And Loomis was the Secretary of State or Assistant Secretary of State for President Roosevelt.
Yep.
And so you'll see his name come up, and a lot of times he's the guy that goes back and tells Teddy Roosevelt what's going on, and vice versa. So I just put a picture up there so people would know who he was.
Yeah.
And so now we're moving on to September 29th. This guy, John Bassett Moore of Columbia University. And it's amazing how many Columbia University alumni and workers are involved in this stuff. But you see Columbia come up all the time. They're in New York as well. But this guy was an advisor to President Roosevelt, and he interviewed, or he talked with Buenaventura, that the United States was studying the possibility of occupying the Isthmus of Panama to construct a canal. So this is where he's getting his information of that. The U.S. is thinking about doing something, and he knows the Treaty of 1846. He was there when they enforced it, so he knows what they're capable of.
Sure.
And then on the October 10th, he visits his friend Loomis. This is the guy at the State Department. And he was taken next door to the White House to meet with President Roosevelt. So this guy gets him in to see Roosevelt. And then 6 days later, he meets with Loomis, and was introduced to Secretary John Hay. And then Hay invites him, Buenaventura, to his house that night. So the Hay-Buenaventura Treaty.
That's where it started.
This is where it starts. So these guys are kind of working around the edges.
Yeah.
Before Amador gets there. All right. So the next one is that Buenaventura talked to them about the revolutions in Panama, and he expressed that there's going to be a lot of bloodshed and violence if you don't intervene, and the U.S. says that they never gave Buenaventura any assurances that they were going to do anything, but they basically said if he couldn't tell, he would just basically be a very stupid man.
Well, and you think about this whole era here as well was right after the 1,000 Days War.
Right.
So for someone to say, hey, this place is a powder keg is not a stretch at all.
Yeah, well, we talked about it last time, the Treaty of the Wisconsin, where they went on the battleship just a few months before that.
So there's a lot of tension there.
Yeah. So and Victoria Lorenzo was hung in May.
Right.
So I mean, it was.
It's by no means a peaceful, calm place.
Right.
He was shot.
So one of the things that October 17th, Buenaventura is talking to Loomis and others, and he basically says that he'll promise to send $100,000 to the rebellion, and that he wanted to be appointed as the minister to the United States from Panama. So he's asking on the 17th, basically, hey, I want to be part of your team. You got to give me.
And this literally happens days after, because when you take into consideration in 1903 to get from Washington D.C. to Panama is not connecting flight through Miami, and you're
No,
there in a
it's
couple of hours. It's weeks, days and days to get
it's
this.
days. Yeah, it's definitely days. But
So you're arriving in Panama with just a
right.
few days to get this stuff going, and
Right.
all of a sudden
So-
November 3rd shows up.
So Buenaventura promises $3 million of his own money to pay the Colombians. But he wants to be, basically given this official position, and it ends up happening.
Yeah.
So Amador cabled Buenaventura on the 29th that the ship was needed in Cologne because the Colombians are coming and they need to act fast. And Buenaventura knows that he hears that the Nashville is in Kingston and it's going to sail, but it doesn't say where. And Buenaventura says, well, based on the speed of that ship, it'd probably be there in about 2.5 days. So he tells Amador, the ship's going to be there in about 2.5 days.
That's funny.
Although
although
no one said, hey, the U.S.
out.
is sending a ship.
Right.
Be ready. They're just kind of like blind faith that it's going to happen. And then at 5:30 on the 2nd of November, the Nashville steams into Cologne Harbor.
Surprise, surprise.
So that basically was 2.5 days.
Yeah.
And basically the commander is told, occupy the railroad line and prevent the landing of any forces.
Yeah, back then you got to remember the Navy was the primary form of transportation for the Army. So it wasn't like the ship was going to be involved, but they're going to pull in there, and all of a sudden they're going to offload their Marines and stuff.
The Marines, right?
And take care of this stuff.
And that's where one of the Marines, not on the Nashville, but the ship that came the next day or two was Lejeune.
Yeah.
So, and we also learned that gosh, why can't I think of his name now? The first Zonian, first lieutenant.
Shaler?
No.
The lieutenant. That's right. What's his name?
Was on it. So anyway,
we forgot his name, man. That's not good.
It's been a long week, man. But anyway, we've heard all this other stuff about they prevent the Colombians from getting on the stuff, so we won't go into that. But I found this article interesting. This is from a San Diego newspaper on November the 4th. It says the city of Panama is being bombarded. You ever hear about that? I heard about the mule and the Chinaman.
You're right.
It's like they wrote the headline before it actually happened. I guess they thought that the war was going to happen, and because it was a war, independence, there's going to be a lot of fighting and stuff like that. But I could barely read this article because that's all I can see is the front page of it too. But it doesn't sound like they talk about anything happening. But I just thought that was pretty sensational that city of Panama
back then when news didn't travel that fast.
Being bombarded, by wire.
That's true. Yes, that's true.
Cable.
Well, Colombia found out they lost Panama 1 month later.
That's when the Darien Gap actually worked.
Ricky, that can't be true.
Yes, totally true. Totally true. It's coming up pretty soon, December something.
We'll go on to the next ones here because, this is kind of what I was talking last time is that there are like minute by minute postings of what happened between the 3rd and like the next week. And so on the 3rd, Buenaventura is up in New York or Washington, D.C., and he doesn't know what's happened. But at 10 o'clock, he gets a cable from Amador saying that they've announced their independence. But Amador doesn't say, you've been appointed to represent Panama. So he's like,
the initial deal.
He's like, what's going on? So the following morning he goes and talks to Loomis.
And where the hell's my $100,000 too, by the way?
Yeah. So he talks to Loomis the next day, and Loomis told him that Colombia forces are still in Cologne. So Buenaventura didn't realize that. So Panama City is free, but Cologne is still occupied by Colombian troops, and that hadn't been settled yet. So he couldn't ask Loomis to say, hey, U.S. recognize Panama because the troops hadn't left yet.
Yeah, they're not ready to do that yet.
So he cables Amador that Cologne had to be taken before he could ask them to recognize Panama. And then when he got to New York, Lindo, the banker, he delivered a cable to him from Amador saying, "Hey, they want the 50,000 to pay these guys." And Buenavaria's like, "I'm not going to send my money. You haven't
Right.
named me."
All I wanted was a name, title. You didn't even give me that.
Yeah. So, but he does send him $25,000, and which is still close to what, $750,000,
Sure, it's a commitment.
$800,000. Yeah. So
Definitely a
it's
commitment.
not. And then on November 5th, Bonavaria gets demands for more money. He's like, "Hey, you got to send us more money, or these guys aren't going to leave, right?" So he didn't send it because he didn't get word that he was
He's trying to
being
get a Nigerian prince scam going here. Is
exactly.
What he's thinking.
And so Arango, Arias, and Boyd, they text him and cable him and say, "Hey, we need to get the recognition and to get official status here." And that came in at 6:40, and I guess he gets a cable at 6:40 that says he was named envoy extraordinaire and minister plenipotentiary, and with the full powers for financial and political negotiations. Nice. So when he gets that, he's like, "Okay, now I can do this." But now 6 hours before, the United States gave Panama de facto recognition. And I guess because it was so close in time, the Panamanians thought that Buenaventura was responsible for that. So they thought, all right. Mission. So, but they also told him, "All right, now that you've done this, you've found a prominent place in Panama history." And then there's the rest of the story. So now that he's the minister to the United States, he's worried that about his position. And then when he because he's been going back and forth to New York and Washington during that time, he missed a cable, and he learns that he was going to be appointed a confidential agent and not give the full responsibilities that he was looking for. And he thought that was a way that Amador was going to try to renege on this deal. And so going to the next one, and history saying, "Hey guys, don't do what you did before. What Colombia was doing. You guys need to step up here."
Because Uncle Sam's getting ready to hightail it to Nicaragua.
Yeah, exactly. And we got a U.S. Senate and House to get approval for too. Yeah. So he's also anxious to negotiate the treaty before opposition swelled, because not everyone in the U.S. was happy with President Roosevelt for doing this.
Sure. And
he has the Democrats fighting with him, just like they always do, and so it wasn't a sure thing.
Right.
And so they had to act quick to do that. And then on the 9th, basically the Panama Junta, before they weren't necessarily a government yet. They were still kind of like a transitional. They appointed Amador and Boyd to go to the United States to sign this treaty. And so they're on their way to New York, and like you were saying, you can't get there in just a matter of minutes or hours. Right. It takes days and stuff like that. So basically they tell Buenaventura that everything that the United States and Colombia had agreed to as of November 3rd, 1903, it's going to remain in effect between the U.S. and Panama. We want the same deal that Colombia was getting. As long as, no changes that affect our sovereignty, make sure we're free, independent, sovereign. You could negotiate a treaty that would protect the sovereignty and protect order of Panama. And then third, the treaty for the construction of the canal was to be drafted and that all clauses that the treaty were to be previously consulted with Amador and Boyd. They were going to come up, and these are the constraints that you have. And Buenaventura basically said, "I'm not waiting for that. If we do the Hey Haran Treaty, I'm not going to get the Democrats and the senators to agree. I need something that's going to sell the U.S. government." I guess it also was election night or something like that anyway. But so there's a lot of turmoil going on. But I'm just going to skip through a couple of these things because there's so much stuff going on and can't get to it. But let's see.
It's John Bigelow.
How many can go? How
about Frank Pavey?
So okay, later on, there's one that you went a little bit too far, but basically, Ricky, what I'm hearing is that on about the 10th of November or so, the General Reyes,
Rafael Reyes,
who was part of the Colombian revolutionary government, was going to go to Panama. I guess they were going to basically try to get Panama to come back into the to the.
So you're looking for reconciliation from Panama,
reconciliation,
which means that they've acknowledged that they've left.
Yeah, and we trying to get it back, but then they wanted the U.S. to go to Colombia to pick them up, and the U.S. said, "Well, we're not going to pick up this guy unless he is like appointed by the government to be like the representative." And now
they basically sign off on it because at this point they're already liking their deal anyway.
Right. So when he gets to Cologne, they tell him, "You got to go on the U.S. ship. They'll see you there." And he's like, "I'm not going on the U.S. ship." So he met with the Panama Railroad people on a Canadian ship, or a ship called the Canada in the harbor, but basically said, "No deal. I'm going back with these guys." But Colombia must have known that Panama declared their independence for them for this guy to come to try to get them back. I mean, certain and like I showed that slide last time, they were only 300 miles apart, so that doesn't take that long to sail. No, and this other guy that becomes a very big player in this is a guy named John Bigelow. He was an American lawyer. He has a very long history. He served with Abraham Lincoln, and they sent him to France to deal with a whole lot of things that were going on during the Civil War and stuff. And so at some point, when in the career, Buenaventura meets this guy in France, and so they become good friends. Actually, I think they might have met each other in Panama in 1886 before he left. But anyway, this guy has a lot of influence in some of those negotiations that were happening behind the scenes with the treaty. But before Amador and Arango come to the United States, Buenaventura has met with Hay, and they've decided that they need to write a draft as quick as they can so they can get it done before Amador shows up. And so Buenaventura is writing this new treaty, and then he calls this guy Pavey, who is also an attorney, to basically to look at what he's writing to make sure that it's proper English and those types of things. And they both agree that the Hay Haran Treaty was a hodgepodge affair.
And this guy was the legal counsel for the Panama delegation.
Yeah. And so Buenaventura determined to insist upon 4 main points: the neutrality of the canal, a free and equal passage of all ships, the payment of Panama indemnity equal offered to Colombia, and a guarantee by the United States of independence of Panama. Basically, protect Panama from any invaders. So this is the guy Pavey, and so he's working with Buenaventura to rewrite this Hay-Haran Treaty that's a little bit more favorable to the United States. And so he decides Buenaventura decides to give greater sovereignty in the Canal Zone than what was included in the Hay-Haran Treaty. And that's where some of the things we talk about, where the Canal Zone is extended to 5 miles on either side, and the in perpetuity clause. But he adds this this provision in there that didn't exist in the Hay-Haran, that all rights, powers, and authority which the U.S. would possess and exercise as if it were sovereign, to the entire exclusion the exercise by the Republic of Panama of any such sovereign rights, power, and authority. So basically, he's giving the U.S. Equal sovereignty, and that's basically what the Panamanians told him. Don't do that.
Right.
We don't want that. But he's like, well, the U.S. won't turn this down.
Right. But the U.S. wants a Canal Zone.
Yeah. So, and I guess that's what you always hear about the Panamanian opposition to the treaty, is that it wasn't written by a Panamanian.
Yeah. Well,
they had no knowledge of this and didn't accept it, and actually told the guy that wrote it, don't do that. He didn't follow a lawful command. And so
they entrusted him with the authority to do it.
Yeah, well, they said, yeah, but do it this way. And he apparently agreed to do it. All right. So then here's a picture of the man. We've probably seen tons of them. But the Hay-Haran Treaty, the other interesting thing I found out about this thing is that this is the original. We've showed it before. And, it's got these two stamps, wax stamps on there.
Yeah.
And I was reading, and basically, go to the next one. And it's not the greatest picture, but the one on the top has a little bit different seal on it than the one on the bottom.
Okay.
And so the one on the top is Hayes, John Hayes, and the one on the bottom is Buenaventura.
Yeah. Okay.
And the one on the top is a signet ring that was Lord Byron's.
Okay.
He's a famous writer.
Writer, yeah.
And he puts his signature down in his stamp, Lord Byron's stamp, and then he tells Buenaventura, all right, you can put your stamp here. And he's like, well, I didn't know we were going to be signing a treaty, and I didn't bring my stamp with me. And he's like, well, Pontefract did that same thing. He didn't know either. Remember the Hay-Pontefract Treaty?
Yeah, okay.
So he goes, what we did is we used one of my signet rings with the Hay coat of arms on it. He said, so you can either use that or you can use the same Lord Byron ring. And Buenaventura decides to use the Hay family coat of arms.
Sure.
Basically to honor Mr. Hay. So those are what those marks are.
Okay.
I just thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So the next thing I found was this book, From Panama to Verdun, and this is a book that Buenaventura wrote in I can't remember the year now. Maybe it says on the next page. No, doesn't. I can't remember. But he writes this book, and Panama is basically where he started his career, and Verdun is where he sort of ended his career. That's a place in France, and during World War I.
Yes, it was a battlefield.
It was a battlefield, and among other things, he lost a leg in battle.
Oh wow! Okay.
But he also is credited with developing a water purification treatment process that's still used today by a lot of towns, and I thought that was pretty fascinating. That a lot of places had clean drinking water because of this process that he developed. Never heard about that. Never heard that he lost a leg either, and that he served in World War I for for France after he finished. And that's why he's known as Colonel Buenaventura. So he had a very distinguished French career after that.
Yeah, he served.
And the next one did you went past the stamp?
Yeah.
The stamp, we always heard about the stamp that with the volcano on it and how that was convinced the U.S. to switch over to Nicaragua. Well, this is a copy of what he sent them, and he had 90 of these printed up to send to the senators.
Oh, okay.
And so that's what it looked like.
Boy.
And I've seen the stamp before, but I've never seen the document.
The pamphlet. Huh.
So I just thought I'd share that with you. And then the other things I found out about him, and this was in his book. He has this photograph in the cut, Contractor's Hill, and then it says his house is barely visible.
Yeah, on the right side.
On the right side, and so the next one I zoomed in a little bit, but you still can't really see it.
Top right, yeah, I can see.
But I want to find out what that house was. It's got to be in a picture somewhere.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I don't know. Did it end up being the house that the engineers used for the headquarters, like Gothel's headquarters, or?
Well, remember Gothel's?
Would that be the Atlantic
side
side or the Pacific side?
Yeah, it's Culebra Cut.
Yeah, Culebra.
Okay.
That's got to be Empire.
Yeah,
Culebra.
It would make sense.
Yeah. So I just thought that was cool. I never heard that. That's where Buenaventura lived.
I'll have to look that up.
And then the next one. Well, that's the next one. Is this dredging? And one of the things that when he was working in the cut, he experienced all the slides and stuff that everyone else had after him.
Sure.
And it was difficult, and they had to go down like 100 more feet, and it's like, this is impossible. This is impossible. So that's why he finally decides he needs to do a lock canal. But one of the things that he realizes is that, it's easier to excavate in the water than it is on the dry land.
Nice and soft.
And so the dredges that they were built for the Suez Canal where it was sand, but now they got all this rock. Out in the bay where it was mud and stuff, it worked fine. But when you got in the Culebra Cut, it was this hard rock. So he developed a system that they would, every 2.5 feet, they would drill a hole and put 50 pounds of dynamite in there and blast the rock so it was less than a foot in size. And you can see in this image, those rocks, they look maybe a little bit bigger than a foot, but the dredges could suck that stuff up and move it a lot easier. So, and that was a system that continued by the Americans. And he also developed ways of when you disposed of the spoils, if you put it a certain way and they had a big heavy rains, it washed everything back on itself. And so he learned how to position the tracks and put the soil in a certain place where it didn't always come back at you every time it rained.
Right.
And so he had a lot of innovations that the U.S. actually...
He wasn't just a wheeler and dealer.
Yeah.
He brought more to the table.
He knew what he was doing, he just ran out of money.
Yeah.
And then the next one, we talked about the first boat going through the canal was the La Valley. And I'm learning here that the dredges that were built for the Suez and then they were brought down to Panama were invented by Burrell and LaValle, and that LaValle is the same name as that ship that was used. So I didn't know the connection between those two.
Interesting.
So not only is it the first ship to go through the Panama Canal, but it's also one of the companies that helped dredge the Suez.
Yeah.
And in this one, you can see the booms go out, and so they dredge up the stuff, and then they dump it on either side. And in the Suez, it's just sand. But here, I guess here it's mud, and a little bit harder to do. And you can see how narrow that canal is. It's it wasn't going to be what we.
No, certainly not.
And it was much narrower.
Very much what you typically see in Europe. When you have canals that are very, very small, very narrow, it's usually one direction.
Mm-hmm. Smaller ships, too.
Yeah,
the other thing I learned is that Buenaventura's son, his name was Etienne, he developed this bicycle called the Velotorpille torpedo bike, and this thing was like the world's fastest bicycle during its time. They had to outlaw it. And this guy could ride it at like 32 miles an hour.
Wow.
And just kind of cool. The other thing, they kind of have a bike like this in the Olympics now, or at least they wear the helmets that kind of
exactly.
have
Big
that
giant shell looking thing.
That shell.
Yeah,
and
I
stuff
see them here a lot.
Huh.
So I just thought these were kind of cool. But he also he was also a pilot for World War One, and so this is him flying a plane. He also raced them, but he was like one of the first aviators, but he also one of the first to get captured. But that's pretty cool that your son is one of the first flyers.
Family has a lot of legacies.
Yeah, and the other thing that he did, the next one is he sold Bugattis, and so this is the car that he bought from the Etienne Buenavria Bugatti sales organization in the 1920s and stuff like that. So he must have raced them too, I would imagine.
Yeah, look at that.
Just some interesting factoids. That the other thing is that Buenavria's brother, Maurice, bought the newspaper called La Matin, and they got in before he bought it. That paper had been implicated in the Panama scandal, and the newspapers back then, they were basically run by businesses that were, it was almost like sales brochures. They just, like we have newspapers today, they were there to sell something, an idea, an opinion, not to necessarily report facts.
Correct.
And so they were big into promoting the Panama Canal back when De Lesseps was there to say how wonderful things were doing. Whether it was true or not didn't matter.
It was like a business paper.
Yeah. So, but anyway, in 1894, his brother bought that magazine, that newspaper, and
give you your promotion arm.
So okay, let's see. So the next thing I have here is that I found this article called "The Man Who Invented Panama," and this is this guy. He worked for CBS. Is a reporter, and he was asked to interview him, and he died in 1940, just before Hitler took over France. And this guy says he might have been the last American that ever talked to Buenavria, and had this man not lived, it may be doubted that the canal would even exist where it does, or that the United States would control it, or Panama would be an independent nation.
I believe that.
And so it's not a stretch to say that Buenavria virtually invented Panama. And I was like, all right, let's hear what this guy has to say. Yeah. He says, I don't know Panama history books, but what they say about them, but there's certainly little in American history books about them. Right. And I don't say that I really knew much about them. But if you've heard about them, you're American, and you're like one in a million. But I think as Zonians, we should know who he is.
You would think.
So he didn't even think that French people knew who he was, that he helped save the French army in World War I and invented a technique to purify water that millions of French city dwellers now drink. And I think it's more than just French, it's all over the world.
Sure.
So this reporter gets a cable from CBS asking him to find if the colonel is still alive, because he was a colonel in the army before he died. He's going to have a 5-minute broadcast on Robert Ripley's Believe It or Not radio program, and it's about his role in the Panama Canal. And so he was alive, and he lived in a magnificent apartment, and Buenavria agreed to do the interview.
That's cool.
And he thought, oh, great, Americans going to hear about me again. So he called him several times and said, hey, we're going to have to keep this short because I only got 5 minutes. And he said Buenavria would get his books down from his shelves, open great albums of photographs, and read to me letters written to him by members of Teddy Roosevelt's family, U.S. cabinet members, senators, bankers, writers, all the famous worthies of the turn of the century. Can you imagine what that guy's library must be like?
Right.
He probably does have like so much stuff. I'm dying now to find out like what his photographs are.
Sure.
And all that stuff. So hopefully one day we can find it.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
So so this guy's 80 years old at this time when he's being interviewed. And so he also goes on to say that while he wasn't a czarist from Russia, he did attempt to interest the Russian government in partnering with France to finance to complete the Panama Canal after the French company failed in the 1890s, and it didn't materialize after the French government collapsed and Tsar Alexander III was assassinated.
Sure.
And we'll talk about that a little bit later. The other gentleman I wanted to talk about, I think we did talk about him earlier, was John Bigelow. This was a guy that was with the New York Chamber of Commerce. He traveled to Panama. He was counsel for President Roosevelt, prominent author and lawyer, and so he was one of the men that was going to France all the time and knew Buenaventura, and also other people that went to this is just saying he was part of President Lincoln's administration as well, and went to France for the U.S. during that time.
Wow.
Now, why do I have this slide in the next one? I've got a slide here with the statues. I missed something somewhere, but oh, I know.
Well, this looks like Columbus, isn't it?
He also what I read was that Bigelow dissuaded Napoleon III from annexing Mexico, and I'm like, why would Napoleon III annex Mexico? And Napoleon III was basically the grandson of Napoleon,
right?
Nephew,
and he became leader of France, after Napoleon was deposed, and basically declared himself emperor, and he did all types of stuff. But France had loaned money to Mexico, France, Britain, and Germany for their civil war, and after the Civil War, Mexico didn't want to pay. So France and England and Germany went to Mexico to collect, and they went to war. And they then they realized the British and the Germans realized that France had bigger plans and they were being double crossed, so they left France there. But France actually killed Maximilian, and I guess the victor go the spoils. They could have marched in and taken the country, but the U.S. didn't want that happening, so they convinced him not to annex Mexico. But the interesting thing is Napoleon III's wife, we had reported back when we were talking about Cologne, she had donated this statue of Columbus. And so there's just kind of one of the things I didn't realize, that her husband was Napoleon III and what he was doing, but just kind of one of these weird Panama French connection things that happened. And anyway, all right, so we'll go on. So this I don't know what happened. I lost my slides from that interview, but we got so much going on. But in the book that Buenaventura writes, he talks, starts basically from the beginning and then goes to the end. And I'll skip through some of these things. I just don't have time to do it all of it. but he said that on the 6th of October, 1884, he sailed from France for Cologne Aspinwall. And I found it interesting that he called it both names.
Right.
To collaborate on the construction of the Panama Canal. And then it said, that he made the decision when he was 15 years old, when the Suez Canal was inaugurated, that he wanted to go to the École Polytechnique, and I guess it was a big deal back then, the Suez Canal, and so he wanted to do it. And of course, when he was graduating, Panama Canal was being constructed, so he went there. So I just wanted to point that out, and then.
So this is part of the book then that he wrote afterwards, I guess.
Yeah. It's From Panama to Verdun, and so it goes. It's his life story, and I'm going to skip through some of these things. But on the second page here, it says, as soon as I arrived on the Isthmus, I was appointed chief engineer of the 3rd Division, which extended from the Pacific shores to the Culebra Cut, and then he starts talking about all of his dealings there, and we could this could probably be its own show, but
that's what I was going to say. This would be a good time to stop, and this actually, just from paging through some of that earlier when you sent it to me, I was reading something of that. It's fascinating, that part, because that really gives a to me some of the best how would you call it, for lack of a better term, play-by-play of the French construction.
It's not only play-by-play of the French construction, but then when he starts talking about the independence movement, about who he's talking to, not only does he have the date stamps and all that stuff, but he has the actual text of all of the cables. So you can read all of them, who sent it, when it came, and all that stuff. And then there's an explanation about it. And there's this one, I'm going to go to this one slide, because I was going to call it this, but there's this banker, Mr. Lindo. Remember, he was asked to be sending money down to Panama. And when is the ship coming from the Nashville coming from Kingston? Right. So that's what you hear. Okay, there was a boat leaving Kingston, and it's going to Panama. It's going to take 2.5 days. But in this, he tells the story that Mr. Lindo would transmit dispatches signed Smith to me, and that he had given to Amador. So basically, they created like some code words between Buenaventura and Amador about what's happening. And so he sends this text, this telegram, and it just says, "Fate, news, bad, powerful, tiger."
All code word.
All code words. And the fate means this telegram is for Buenaventura. That was his code name. And then the news is Columbia forces are arriving. Bad means Atlantic. Powerful, 5 days. And tiger, more than 200. So basically it says the landing of 200 Colombian soldiers was expected in 5 days
look at that.
On the November 3rd. So that's when they realized they had to act.
Heck yeah.
Right then. They needed to do it beforehand. Because
remember,
all of a sudden there was emergency.
Yeah.
So they got tipped off, and that was the 5 code words. I've never heard that before.
That's cool. A little James Bond action there.
And the other thing about it is, like, the last code word was tiger. So I'm like, well, there's Cristobal Tigers. That's how they got their name. All right.
Look at you.
All right, there you go.
Look at you.
That's the story that we'll make it up for them.
I like that. I think we can dig that story.
They became tigers because that's where it was Cologne.
Because you'd have no other reason to associate tigers with anything in Panama.
Right, and that's basically that's where the canal zone was starting. They're stopping those troops from coming over.
That's
and that's
fascinating.
where it ended. That's where the missing link there. But anyway, so that's where Tiger was in there. There's a reason for it, and
Now we know.
and that's where we're gonna come with that. So that's what I'm gonna end with some
that's a
positive
great
words
way
for
to do it.
Cristobal.
Yes, indeed.
Is that we figured out where Tiger came from. Now we need to figure out where Bulldog comes from. I think.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That'll be the next one. No, that was fascinating, and I like the thought of going through this book as you know on one of our episodes, because there's like I said, reading through some of that stuff, it really is it's the most accurate historical narrative of what we've been hearing.
It actually is, and I'm really surprised that I haven't heard more discussions about this book. Like this,
Right.
this ought to have been the book that we read in high school.
Yeah, no shit.
It's an easy read, but that's one of the problems with this stuff is it's hard to summarize what's on the page because it's all part of the puzzle. Otherwise, you just get the Colombians came on the second and the U.S. stopped them, and
right.
Well, you missed the whole story.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of moving parts behind the scenes before that ever came up.
And so that's where I have difficulty on some of this stuff is like, how do I weed all this stuff out? Because,
but you know, after going through all that stuff, now that title, the inventor of Panama or whatever it was, makes sense. Maybe the verbiage was probably not the most accurate, but Buenaventura really is a founding father of Panama in so many words, because his effort, his call it greed, call it passion, whatever, made sure this deal never fell apart.
Well, I think part of it is that it could have been bloody, or it could have ended the way that it did with basically no shots fired.
Right. And it could have been bloody, and then fast forward a few years later, and the United States is opening a canal in Nicaragua.
Yeah.
And it all went to hell.
Yeah. Or it could have been that it just becomes United States.
Right.
And not not a Panama because
like Hawaii,
because
like
those leaders got killed.
Yeah, indeed.
I mean, and hung or whatever it is. I mean, you just never know. But Teddy's probably just going to say, "I'm going to take it anyway." But then you have a belligerent next door, so it's like, now what do? You're always going to be fighting these guys. So
correct. And it would have been the same canal zone growing up in a place where you had an insurgency all around you.
Right. But that's where I started saying timeline of the canal zone. It said, the inventor of Panama, but for some reason, for some ways, when he writes in here, oh, I know there's one other line that I want to read. It says, I decided to grant the United States in the interior of the zone all rights, powers, and authorities that would have been if she were sovereign, to the entire exclusion of the use of any such rights, powers, and authority by the sovereign Republic of Panama. So he says in this that was my decision,
right,
to put that in there. So I created the canal zone and its sovereignty. And so, if that's true, and we know that he did write a treaty in the language, and did he pen it or did Hay pen it? He's saying it was all his.
Right. Well,
in fact, I think I think it was this Pavey guy said, why don't you rephrase it this way? That basically gives them all their authority, and then he took it into advisement and did it. But it's just fascinating because that's always been the issue that's been plaguing us is that language, but without that, the canal zone doesn't exist.
Correct. That gave us a canal zone for 100 years.
Yeah.
So.
And I also think too, when they were building this canal, they were still thinking it was going to be a sea level canal, and so there's no Balboa and all that stuff planned.
Right.
You just need a channel to run ships through. You don't need all
community,
that stuff.
Not nearly the amount of personnel.
But with that 5 mile buffer on either side and all these provisions in there, it allowed them to do that. And I guess you could see where in Panama you're saying like, that's just one more thing. It's just one more thing. But
it was a time to take advantage of it because Panama wanted a country.
But I guess they could still be fighting for independence. I mean, for all if they hadn't gone through it. I mean, what would have stopped them, or what would Panama have had to overcome the obstacles that they had? I mean,
Right.
Colombia certainly wouldn't let them get more powerful. So
No, and they knew they couldn't do it on their own. So it had to be, the relationship had to be forced in there no matter what. Otherwise, it was all going back to Colombia.
Yeah. And they were gonna lose the canal, and they were gonna lose the railroad if it went to Nicaragua. It's like there's no need for that. So
agreed.
It's just really, really interesting. I mean, how
it's
it all
fascinating
is.
how close we came to not being a canal zone.
Yeah.
It was
many
very
times.
Yeah, it was hanging on a balance several times.
And it's just fascinating that this stuff is out there. And again, I mean, I did read a book called Donnegan's Panama Canal, and it repeats a lot of this stuff that's in there, but it's from one of these reporters that worked for.
Sure. It's third person. Here you're getting it from the source.
It's actually first person. The guy claims to be there in the room.
Okay.
He's just a reporter for. I can't remember what.
So he just, in essence, just didn't have credibility until someone else corroborated it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he wrote it, and like one of his jobs for this newspaper was they'd say, hey, like go to Nicaragua and write about how much better it is for to build a canal there than it is Panama. So it's like a hit piece. But he's like, I was in Panama, and this guy told me to buy all of this Panama Canal stock, and it's going to be worthless.
Yeah, and that's at the end of the day, that was probably the biggest driving force. Was I need to get some money. I've been doing this for 15 years. I'm getting my money.
Yeah. So this guy says he writes a story saying, "Man, the rats are as big as cats in Nicaragua. I don't know why anyone would have come here and stuff
and they
like
got
that."
that pesky volcano too, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. So he's writing stuff like that, and then, but even Buenaventura does these pamphlets and stuff and shows, this is how much more steel it would cost to build a canal in Nicaragua. This is how much more.
Everybody had their sales pitch.
Everything.
Yeah.
And so they were trying to put a price tag on it. This is there was another volcano exploded in Martinique and killed like 30,000 people. And they're like, see what can happen if you go into Nicaragua. So there was all this.
Those will be Americans dying there.
All this stuff going on, but it's just fascinating that this we get The Path Between the Seas, and it's a great book, but it's just kind of like the Cliff Notes version of
it really is
of what's going on. As big as that is, it can't do.
And for
nobody's
us living
ever told
and
me
breathing
this
this whole canal zone for all this time and never heard this.
Never heard it. So that's why I take time to talk about this stuff, because I've never heard it anywhere.
Yeah, no.
And I don't know
it's
anyone
the only
that has
place
the
that's
patience
passing
to do
this
it.
information on. This is the only place doing it. So we're very
And I wish I
grateful that
could,
you find this stuff, man.
I wish I could just do a 15-minute presentation and say, here, look how pretty this picture is, and go on to the next one. But
that's what everyone's done for the last 100 years.
It would defeat the purpose
agreed.
of knowing what really happened. And
that's
how
not
did
history to do
there.
that.
And again, I sourced like 3 different references in these things, and they all tell us slightly different versions, all the same, but again, you get to this document, and then it's like, here's the actual letter I sent to the senators,
Yeah, no.
Like, I've never seen that before. Here's the actual treaty I signed,
Yeah, each one opens another door and opens another door and opens another door, man.
And so you get there and you start learning about it, and then you hear these names. Like, I've never heard of Pavey before. I've never heard of, Bigelow. I've never heard of, there's all types of people that are listed in here, and it's like, it's hard to find
this one
information on some of them.
Dave, this is a story you definitely need to tell more of, especially, again, this book. I think that in itself would be a fascinating episode, because it kind of brings it all together, right? We've spent several months going over these, and not always in chronological order, but we got a lot of information. This really kind of brings it all together and says, okay, this is the story now. This is what we've been talking about for the last 6 or 8 months, and here it is to kind of tie it all together, and so I'm looking forward to that, man. That's definitely going to be a great a show to bring out there, because it brings it all to that point where it makes sense, and we've gotten a lot of great information now. Well, now let's put it all together and make it something that
Yeah.
that we can all understand.
Yeah.
You know, so cool. Well, listen, Dave. Thanks again. I know this was a long one, but this was a great story. This one was definitely a good story to share with everybody. It like I said, it brought it all together, and it did answer a lot of questions. You know, we've been hearing a couple different things there. You know, even like Ricky said, you know, did it take 30 days for Bogota to hear about this? Maybe, maybe not. You know, maybe it was a regional force that was moving there. Who knows? Because, you know, big difference between the Colombian government and their infrastructure and what the United States had. But to your point, 300 kilometers on a boat to Cartagena is not that far either.
And, you know, like the 18th of November was the day that treaty was signed. Did you hear anything about it?
Correct. There's so many still loose ends out there that we're looking for, and we don't find them, man. And we're trying to figure that out. But
so I think it's good to share this information, and
absolutely,
you know, it's out there. You got to look for it, but put it all together, and you know,
well, that's what we have you for. That's what we have our Canal.
What I can't do is I can't do it in 30 seconds. That's the problem.
Well, you know, 2026, we got a couple of things in the works. One of them is going to be getting that website up and running, and there is going to be a historical channel in there, which you're going to be hopefully playing a big role in that, and that's a place we can get some of those stories out. You know, kind of almost an on-demand training. You know, where you don't need to do it and watch it.
I think I'm going to move. I'm going to put myself on a 60 slide limit next time, and I just have to stop.
There you go. Maybe start from the end and work your way down. And then
you can't tell the story. I'm watching the American Revolution show on TV, and even that's 6 episodes of 2 hours, right? So I mean, you can't do it in one sitting. You got to do it in bite-sized pieces, and it's a big story. And I just don't want to say, well, you know, today was 4th of July. It's our Independence Day.
Right.
And
there's more to it than that. Yes, exactly. We want the names, the places, the times, and everything else.
Yeah.
And what's going on in the background.
Yeah, for sure. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, Dave, thank you again so much for doing this. I know this isn't your normal schedule. We appreciate you doing this for us. It really was awesome. This was very, very enlightening. But have yourself a wonderful Thanksgiving next week. And
you guys too.
We will look forward to our December lesson.
All right.
December 1st.
That's just coming around the corner.
Yes, it is. It is right around the corner. Yeah.
It's another 2 weeks.
Yes.
But you know, guys, listen, there are a lot of people doing history of Panama right now. So it's important that we put, you know, David, your message out there and our your research and our research together and put out a story before some more fake stories are put out there.
Sure. And become the resource for a lot of people. Because a lot of people don't know where to look for this stuff. You know, and you've certainly got a knack for it. You definitely have a nose for Panama history, man. It's fascinating the things that you come up with, man. So, man, keep up the good work, brother.
And our side of the view of things too, very important.
Yeah,
and I got to tell you, I can only share some of what I find because it's just too much.
Yeah, no, it is. Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, if we can get that website, you know, that history channel going on there, that's where we'll have time to do a lot more of that. And maybe if we can get some people to help out and contribute as well to really grow that place, because that's like Ricky said, there's a lot of interest in the Canal Zone and then Panama and the history there, and it's you know, we could play a big role in that to help people kind of set that record straight and tell the right story. You know,
correct.
But anyhow, Dave, again, thank you so much. Again, have a great Thanksgiving, and we will talk to you in a couple of weeks.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Take care, man.
Like always. Gracias.
All right. Man, that was cool, man. That was an interesting lesson. You know, the story there, the whole Bolivaria thing. This guy, he really did bring Panama out. Okay, whether it was for financial gain, whether it was pride, or just I got to finish the job I started after 15 years, whatever it was. Thank God he was persistent. Thank God he listened and had his ears open, because there were several times when you and I could have been. We wouldn't have had this. I mean, honestly, we wouldn't have had this, you know. Our families are Panamanian and American, and there wouldn't be that Panamanian-American union had this not happened, right? And, you know, in Nicaragua Canal, we're not here, man. You know, it's it's other people doing it, and so it's interesting how this was on a balance.
A lot of things came together for
Yes.
this to happen, like the perfect storm. Yeah.
And it could have gone a different direction easily, so. But anyhow, guys, thank you again for joining us. Next week, it'll be the day after Thanksgiving. We'll have a lot to be thankful for and chit chat about. We'll have our monthly recap show as well, so don't miss out on that. And then again, in a couple of weeks, Dave will be right back joining us again, some more history. And of course, we got that World Cup draw we're excited to see there. But anyhow, guys, thank you so much. Have yourselves a great weekend. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Ricky, get us out of here, man.
Yep, like Willie says, happy Thanksgiving. And again, thank you so much for all your participation tonight. We'll see you next week with another great story. Gracias for the bottom of our hearts.
Salud, everybody. Cheers. Have a great weekend.
Cheers.